Hey, try to turn me up a little bit right now. Let's go. Yeah, 10 out of 10, let's rate. I've been going big on the bigs out of state. Do research, check out the back of my plates. I rep so heavy, attack when I take. Still, I'm on that for the long run. That name that you got, say the right one. Don't try me, I rap like a python. Had enough of the talk, let be hustling. Got my name up, came up off of nothing. Jersey gon' hang up like Jane, cause I'm chosen. Need my necklace and wrists, it's frozen. Getting bread out the game like I throwed it. It don't make me no bigger to show it. The stack, cause I'm here for the trophy. Made it law when they cannot appeal. Show them that the list ain't all the real. What you think it cost me out the deal? All I know is how I came in from the dough. Since a touchdown, all they want is more. Now I'm known to the world, I ain't tryna feel. Just run it up till I hit. My money grown, project grown, feel at home. Got the juice, minute made. I'm calling game in his face. Soon as Slim hit a J, renegade. My people long, won't be long till we all sitting on center stage, getting right off what I do. I know they getting tight off how I move. I still ain't did a write-off on these juniors yet. I never even claimed that we was cool. Really, I was just playing it by the rules. Still moving like gang, I nothing to lose. But most of them won't know until I show them. And that's why I just try and keep it smooth. Did it all of my prior just to prove that I can make it all real without they rules. And for the haul, I don't plan on stopping soon. All I know is how I came in from the dough. Since a touchdown, all they want is more. Now I'm known to the world, I ain't tryna feel. Just run it up till I hit a meal. 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 Just run it up till I hit a meal.
Welcome to NWA Connie Corsos podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another show, NWA Connie Corso podcast, where we talk all things dog. Hey, everybody. Glad to see everybody back in the building. We're back for another one with some strangers. Schoolboy, Vito, what's happening?
What's going on?
My
connection sucks all of a sudden again. I'm hearing you guys kind of funny.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, can you hear us pretty good still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we'll get through it. Yeah. Shout out Vicente Moore. Shout out Neffy Diaz. Drew the Dog Man. What's happening? Working Line German Shepherds. Neffy Diaz. All right, gentlemen. Let's go and get back into it. I hope y'all had a great weekend and week since the last time. Schoolboy, it's been a minute since we've been on together. I think. Yeah.
I always be watching the shows. I watched the one with you and Vito, and if nothing else, like I tell everybody, I'll press the damn like button at least. You know, that's the least I could do. You know?
Right. I'm the same way. I be listening on the go.
Yeah. We just got back from vacation too. We went to SeaWorld in San Diego, so had a good time. I've been busy, you know.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. SeaWorld, huh?
Yeah.
That's what's up. Vito, everything been good with you?
Yeah. I had puppies yesterday, and everything went perfect.
Nice.
8 puppies. One was dead, but other than that, they all seem to be doing good. She's a good mom.
Nice. Is that her first litter, or she's whelped pups before?
Yeah, it's her first litter. Actually, I hate to say it was kind of an accidental breeding, but I wanted to do the breeding, but I didn't want to do it for another year. But
right,
I got 8 pretty cool looking pups so far. I mean, hopefully they'll make it.
Yeah, how old is she?
She's like 18, 20 months old.
Okay, good. Young. I like them young. Dogs.
It's kind of an
I got
interesting breeding. I kind of a subline. I outcrossed, and then I had a dog from another breeder that I really like, which I don't usually get dogs from other breeders that I like for that much that I breed around. But and so this is kind of a breeding around that stuff. But I can hear you guys okay. You hear me good?
I hear you. Yeah, we hear you excellent. Yeah.
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 I don't know. My Wi-Fi sucks, but
yeah, you look glitchy, but we can hear you fine. As long as you hear us fine, we'll get through it. Yes, sir.
We'll have some nice still shot. Yeah, go ahead, Vito.
Oh, I watch so many of your podcasts, especially that one with Mr. Gray. I think I've watched it like 5 times, maybe.
Yeah.
I've been a pit bull guy my whole life. I haven't bred pit bulls, but I've just kept up with it, books, met all kinds of pit bull people and stuff, but even as a little kid. And nowadays I try to watch as much stuff as I can because I love all the history and but there's not a lot of really good ones. I just listen to you and a guy, Triple J Southern Kennels. You know him?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Vito. Yeah, Mr. Gray, he's good people. We've traveled a lot together, been to different places in the U.S. and Mexico. He's got a lot of experience. But yeah, I hear you. You know, I try and, you know, when I see someone I don't know, I'll listen to their podcast or their chat or whatever it is, and you know, I can tell who has experience and who don't, and a lot of them. You know, their experience is limited. So, you know, my advice to them is just give the information that you have. Don't overplay it. Don't say things that are not true, or don't embellish or make yourself more than you really are, because there's people out there that can tell. They know you're BS, and they know that you're just regurgitating stuff or something you read. If it's something you read, then say, I read it, right? And give that information. If you have very little experience, say that, because at least you're honest. And as you continue to move forward, you just grow, you learn more, you have more experience. But people, they, you know, a lot of times they want clout, they want likes, and they want this and they want that. And that's not the way to get it. You can't fake it, because there's people out there that know the difference. I can talk to somebody for 5 minutes and tell what kind of experience they really had, or if they're just saying something they read or somebody told them. So there's nothing wrong with not having experience, but in my opinion, there's something wrong if you're misrepresenting yourself or giving, you know, misinformation, or making yourself more than what you are. So,
boy, I'm having a hard time. My connection is so bad.
You can go back out, go back out and go back in as needed.
Want me to pop off and pop back, see if it helps?
Yeah,
I can barely hear anything.
Okay,
all right, I'll be back.
You might have to
talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That what you said is so true, Schoolboy, because you can see it. Before I start doing this, I could see it, and I will acknowledge it. I don't have the experience that these dudes got, but that's what I noticed. I noticed people would sit up there and say things they just learned, and even just teach things that they just learned. And when they taught it, it would be real shaky. So you could tell they really didn't know it. So, and I get a lot of flack for this podcast, straight up, because all the bullshit is out. We go get the men that really know.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the difference with you, Joe, is you don't act like you know more than you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And you try and get people that do have experience, and then some of the things that they did or do or whatever, you can relate to that because you've done it, you did it, and you know it.
Right.
And that's all I'm saying is, don't go beyond what you know, because if someone starts asking this person questions and they don't have an answer, and even if it's something that they just mentioned or talked
I
about,
moved around the room. See if I
Right.
get
maybe
better
that'll
Wi-Fi
help.
connection.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when they talk to these people and they don't have answers to the topic they just brought up or whatever it is they're talking about,
Can you
that's how
guys hear me
kind of
at
you can
all?
tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Let me try one more time.
Okay.
Oh, he can't hear us. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. People will show you more respect for being honest, and they'll follow you, your podcast or your channel, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
if you're honest, more so than if you try and embellish stuff that, just to make yourself look good or act like you know more than you do. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We all have to go through that. We all got to learn.
Right.
I'm just old. That's why I know stuff. That's all it is. I'm old. When I was their age, I didn't know nothing either.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then too, offline, I have a lot of older guys that hit me up, and they'll tell me, man, I wish these youngsters would listen to us more. And I think platforms like this is going to create a balance where they do, because we're starting to get a younger audience that's coming in and learn, and they connecting with people, and and good things that people get on the right track, because you don't need to be trying to fake it till you make it.
Right. In fact, Vito mentioned Mr. Gray, and I just talked to him today, and it's funny because that's kind of what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
There's young people that they don't have respect, or they don't know the rules of the game. They don't know how things go. And then you have other young people that do have respect and want to learn,
mm-hmm.
and do have some experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of going through that process. And people appreciate this show, my show, other ones.
Yeah.
That the guys are giving real information, real experience.
Then you have another faction. You have the guys who ain't been in a long time, but since they've been mentored right, they take off real fast.
Right.
and they, and them brothers.
And they give the credit to their mentors.
They do. Yeah,
they
do. Yeah.
And a lot of times those mentors, I know them.
Mm-hmm.
So I know exactly what they're talking about, whether it's some event or something that was passed on.
Right.
They've told me the same thing, or I've been there with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I mentioned before, the community is really small when you compare it to the population.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small community.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be somebody in Georgia. Well, I know people in Georgia or Florida or Oregon, Washington, Michigan, all these states. And if they've been around a long time, I either know them, or I've talked to them, or I followed their career and I at least know what they did.
Right.
Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Vito.
Hey, you know what I did? I went off the Wi-Fi and I'm just on shitty cellular.
That's right.
It seems to be working.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's good.
All right. Hey, I'm gonna let you jump in, Vito, with anything you want to holler at Schoolboy about.
Yeah, I was telling you, I love watching your podcast, and I think it's because you guys aren't bullshitting anything. You're just talking about your experience. It's all authentic, and a lot of the other ones I try to listen to, and it's like they want to talk about, Yellow John was bred. He's a beagle mix, or whatever. It's just silly, stupid shit. There, who cares about that? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I feel like just calling in there and saying, hey, if he was a Chihuahua, what difference does he make? He
exactly.
He proved what he was. So
right, and then I would ask him, give me another 100 Chihuahuas that could do what he did. Right. Yeah. Prove to me that the Chihuahua is a fighting dog. And the interviews I do, and even the videos I make, I try and do it, and the books I write as if we're sitting there talking. So like you mentioned, Mr. Gray, or I've done, Gene Matson, Leander Day, all these people, Bob Finley and all that. That's how we are when we're sitting down together, because most of them I've been in person with, I've known, we traveled or we competed against each other, whatever it is. That's how we sit and talk. So that's kind of how I do the interviews. We're just sitting there talking, dogs, and it kind of, my intention is kind of have the audience there. They're sitting there with us, listening to this conversation,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I do
Unfortunately,
things.
my breed, it's different in so many different ways. And you guys have an absolute contest that proves your dog. It doesn't matter the bullshit or any of that other stuff. What it is what it is. Whereas American Bulldogs, it's like, my dog's better. It's got a big head,
Yeah.
or my dog,
Yeah.
my dog can do this and do that and do this. Or they show the dog tugging on a rope for 15 minutes and say, see, my dog performs.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see what it does in a half hour or 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess
I mentioned this the other day too, that the other breeds are kind of going through this renaissance where they're these people that are acquiring these dogs, and even some breeders, is they're realizing that the dogs haven't been done anything with. They haven't performed or been utilized for a long time. And they're wondering, how come this dog don't work? How come he can't? Why does he have hip dysplasia? And why do he have these physical and mental problems? And, I want a working dog, whether it's protection or attack or, hunting or this and that. And they're finding it hard to find one. And even some pit bull guys that use them for catch dogs or hunting coyotes or raccoons or whatever, they're not up to par. And I just mentioned that the reason for that is because those instincts have been lost because the dogs have not been worked. They haven't been used in performance. They haven't been in sports, nothing. And any breed, if you don't, because all breeds were bred for a function, you take that function out of it, now all these instincts are lost. All these traits are lost. And a lot of these people that are getting even these other working breeds are finding out, man, I can't use this dog. He's not good. And I hear all this stuff. It's happened a little bit with the pit bulls too, not like the other breeds, but I think they're realizing that, hey, I need to find a working breed of dog from a breeder that does something with them, because I expect this dog to do certain things. And I think over time, it'll get better. But yeah, like you said, with the American Bulldog, it's a lot of people, that's how with pit bulls that are not used for any kind of function. I mean, legal sports or anything. They basically talk about the pedigree and how the dog acts and how he looks and even how big his head is, and he's got big teeth, and look at his muscle and all this, which all has nothing to do with function. As far as looking at them or looking at a pedigree and saying, man, that's a great dog. That's not how you measure it.
Yeah, it took me a while. When I first started, I was this bonehead, just like the kids are with all this I thought, hey, you know what? I've been into dogs since I've been 6 years old, and I know a lot about dogs, so I don't need to learn anything. But what I had to learn, because our breed, this American Bulldogs, have at least the Johnson Bully type side, has pretty bad breathing issues, heat tolerance, and I had to try to fix it, and it took a lot to figure it out. But I figured out, I started sending dogs to hog hunters, and I figured out you can't look at a dog and have any clue whether, first of all, whether they got the mentality, whether they got the grit, and you could probably tell by breathing. If you take out a flirt pole in 90-degree weather, you can get the dog breathing pretty bad, but you can't tell anything without that work. And that's probably the biggest problem with American Bulldogs. They were developed mainly, and it's probably true with a lot of breeds out there. They weren't developed with the work. It wasn't an absolute test. Whereas, racing dogs or fighting dogs or cattle dogs or whatever, the guys that race in heelers and working border collies, if it doesn't work, they have no use for it. So it doesn't get bred. But
very good point. Very good point.
They breed for who knows what, just whatever.
Yeah.
He looks cool. He looks cool. But
mostly for looks, and structure, maybe. The American Bulldog, to my knowledge, has pit bull in it. That's one of the foundation breeds
Yeah,
that
you know,
was used
there's
to develop the dog. So in my mind, they're breeding a dog that has pit bull in it, but they don't want that aspect of the pit bull where it's just fighting every dog it sees. So they want
well,
some of that tenacity maybe, and they want some of that work ethic or this or that, but they want it to be manageable where they can live together and all that. But if you don't have a way of going about that with some kind of function behind it, and I think you're right, they didn't really have a function in mind when they developed the breed. It was more for looks, I think.
yeah, two guys is John D. Johnson and Ellen Scott in the 70s, late 60s, 70s. They said they were going to set out to preserve this Southern Bulldog. And at the time, they came up with the name when they registered it. They call it the American Pit Bulldog, and which most people thought that was a pit bull, but they'd say, oh no, we don't have no terrier in our dog.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a parallel between pit bulls and American bulldogs. Not the dog today exactly, but the dog that these country people were talking about. I think there's strains of dogs, and people have had them in their family, these white bulldogs down south, and they swear ain't no pit bull, never been a pit bull in these dogs, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous. But I think sometimes they could maybe be true back in the 1920s or something. Maybe the dogs they had weren't called pit bulls yet. They were just so and so imported a dog from Ireland or England. They used them for fighting. Well, you know how most people that raise pits seriously, they have 50, 100 dogs maybe. They test them. If they don't test game, they're either culled or given away. I'm sure they gave them away to hog hunters or farmers or whatever.
Right.
And then those people had them, and all they do is it's a bulldog. It's a bulldog. It's a bulldog. And if they were white, like early pit bulls, like Kager and Pincer and all those dogs were like white, mainly piebald dogs, and they were big too. Like wasn't Kager like 70 pounds or something? Yeah.
Yeah, on the chain. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah. So
those are Colby dogs. And you're absolutely right, because there was a story going around where they were insinuating that there were bulldogs in the South that were not pit bulls. Right? I don't know how true that is, but it's more along the lines of what you're saying, is that these fighting dogs back then, 20s, 10s, 1890s, even before, and which is I use the term, they were fighting dogs because it was the name wasn't established, or it was used by all these different people, and they had different names, where there was American Pit Terrier, where there was Pit and Bull, or Bull Staff, or not Bull Staff, but Bull and Terrier, all these different names, Yankee Terrier and all this stuff that people, it was just a name depending on the region you were from or what name you were familiar with. That's what they used for the dog, but it's all the same breed. They're all fighting dogs. So I don't think there was a separate fighting dog in the South, because they would have had to get it from somewhere. But if they're saying these dogs are basically based off of the bulldog, the English side, then they would have to not have the terrier in them for them to do that. I don't know if anybody ever did that, because they were mixing the two, the terriers and the bulldog, English bulldog and the terriers from, they were mixing them back in the UK. It was done before it was done here. We just established that cross here, called it American Pit Bull Terrier. And then those are basically the dogs that were used to develop and continue with the breed.
Oh, yeah. I think, look at the Boston Terrier. It came from fighting dogs, they say. They probably put some kind of a toy bulldog later on in it or something, but they were supposedly used for fighting dogs. And they were like 30-pound dogs. So a lot of dogs came over, but they didn't have pedigrees. They were just like, so-and-so said this is a good catch dog or a good bulldog or whatever.
And if you think back, when you're a kid and I was a kid, and this has to go back hundreds of years, most people that grew up with dogs, you're going to allow your dogs to fight, or you're going to let them fight regardless, right? You didn't like to see dogs fight. We had German Shepherds. It was who had the baddest German Shepherd on the block or Rottweiler with this and that. So they did the same thing. In fact, in Armitage's book, 30 Years with Fighting Dogs, which was from 1900 to 1930 when he wrote the book, one of the first matches he had was against a Pit Bull Boston Terrier cross. So somebody was using, you have these tenacious Boston Terriers, which look different than they do today. And you might have a pug, or a bull terrier. Somebody's going to fight it. But they weren't, those are more like exceptions rather than the rule. And eventually even not Tudor, but Floyd Boudreau and Gaboon Trahan, they fought all kinds of mixed dogs when they were younger. But once they figured out, hey, the American Pit Bull Terrier, that's the fighting dog, we're going to stick with those. Then they kind of left all them other crosses and mixes alone and went with that. And I think that's what a lot of people do.
I don't think people realize that dog fighting, catch work, butcher dogs, that shit went on hundreds, maybe thousands of years.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever read all the stuff about Christopher Columbus coming to the New World. They have all these pretty intricate, detailed accounts of him bringing these dogs. They just call them alants. That's just a general term for a dog. And they were war dogs, and the dogs were trained to kill people. And they fed natives to them. And all the artwork that depicts them, some of them look like pit bulls, straight pit bulls. Some of them look like a thick greyhound, and some look like maybe like a doggo hound type dog.
Right.
And I imagine those dogs, some of that blood may be stuck around here because the Spanish had forts all over the place in Florida. And at that time, I think in North America, there weren't really very big dog breeds. There were small dogs, and Indians didn't keep dogs like we do. They were kind of like a nomadic, just dog that fouls around, eat scraps.
Right.
So I'm sure there's some of that in there, but supposedly all these bull breeds and a lot of mastiff breeds all go back to that Alant type of dog.
Yeah.
And actually,
I posted it's a depiction, it's a carving 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia or Samaria. It's two dogs fighting. They were mastiffs, and they were the war dogs that the Greeks used for the same thing you're saying, the alants, to kill people. Well, you're not always fighting a war. You're not always using the dog for that purpose, just like the bull baiting dogs and the ratting dogs and all that. So during the off time, what are you going to do? You're going to put them together and make them fight each other for sport and bet money and entertainment. So you're exactly right. That's what all them cultures did.
Yeah, supposedly, people will probably, I don't know all the details, but from what I read, there was a North African tribe called the Alani, and they were nomadic, and they would travel across the top of Africa and up across over France into Spain, and then come back to Morocco. And they were the best horsemen. They bred war horses, what nowadays people call warm bloods. They're just a horse that you could ride, and you get into war. You're shooting arrows, or you're swinging your blade. And they also produce those dogs, those alants, and they would aid also. And these people, these North African tribes, they went anywhere they wanted because nobody could F with them. They would cut your head off. No, back then, nobody could ride a horse like that. Nobody had horses they could, like that, war horses. As a matter of fact, the Romans, they say the Romans hired them to guard that Adrian Wall, the wall in England. They had a wall that kept kept the crazy Irish out, the crazy Northern out, because they were uncivilized. You couldn't tax them. They were just barbaric.
Celtic.
So they had their dogs in England, and I'm sure they bred them. So
they did.
If we had the
which
truth,
is why
it'd be so interesting.
Yeah, which is, even those war horses, right? Well, they're going to attack humans too.
Yeah.
They're going to kick them. They're going to bite them. They're going to, just like the dogs. Everything during that period of time, everything you use fought. So whether you had youngsters out there, young men, older men. You had dogs, you had horses, whatever it was. Everything was utilized in battle to some degree. So
Yeah.
I would say those African tribes, you know, they bred those horses, they used them, they had them for a certain purpose. And if they're using them in war, it's not just to ride around. The horse has to be accustomed to fighting too, and has to be utilized in battle as well. So
You know,
yeah,
when I was a kid,
it's almost in every culture.
oh yeah. When I was a kid, I don't know if you guys ever had this, but every like year, you'd have this advertisement on TV of these white horses, and they advertise that they're coming to town, and they were called Lipizan stallions. They're
We went every year
Austria.
to walk. Yeah,
I saw that every year when I was a kid, and I could never,
Yeah.
my parents would be like, what? You're crazy. Well, about 15 years ago, I told a friend of mine, and she's got 5 kids that live out here in the country. They love horses. So we took all of them. And I still didn't understand what was going on. I was like, this is kind of boring. What the hell are they doing? Because I was waiting for them to jump around, rear up, kick back. But they did that a little bit, but it was mainly just halter work with them doing weird stuff. Well, then about a year or two after that, PBS had a special about those Lipizan or stallions. And that's what they are. They're war horses. And they'll rear up and kick back. And the reason why they do is to kick everybody away from you. If you're fighting, that horse will kick up. And same thing, the dog will come up and grab a guy that you may stab that didn't kill, and then the horse might bite him too or stomp his head in.
Stomp it. That's what it is. Yeah. It's funny. Those horses, they're all white, but they're born black.
Yeah.
They're born black and then they turn white. But yeah, we used to go to that show every year, just like people, and we used to too go to Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah.
We go see the Lipizzaner show every year. It was interesting because, you know, I like history. And a lot of it has to do with outlaws and battle equipment and weapons and all that stuff. So I was familiar with a lot of different things that's related to all that.
When I was a kid, I kind of was into horses because when my sister tells a story and makes fun of me, but when I was a little kid, remember they used to have a show, they used to have it on in the morning before you go to school called Fury. It was about a black stallion, and this little stallion, the only person could ride it is this little tiny kid called Packy. And he was freaking just a beautiful horse. And I used to love watching that. My sister said, yeah, you'd run around and rear up and act like a horse. I was like 6 years old. And I actually, when I was a kid, that's what I was interested in, drawing horses. I don't know. That's why I got into dog. I don't know. I used to like dogs. I didn't have, my parents are from Sicily, and they, my mom, they loved animals, but we lived in the city. They were like, nah, that's for when you have a farm. We can't have that. And actually, I used to beg for a dog. And we moved in this fancy neighborhood, and we were like the immigrants. You know, it was a pretty nice neighborhood. And we were like these immigrants that moved in, and they dated people there were like, oh, God, these people just got off the boat and they're living in our neighborhood. Well, I begged my dad for a dog. And I guess he felt bad because we had just moved there. And he said, okay. So we went to the pet store and they told us, I wanted a big white German Shepherd, but my dad's like, no. Little dog, little shits. He said, little poop. So they pointed this dog out. And she says, they're half Beagle, half Manchester Terrier. So I got this dog. She lived to be 19.
Wow.
But I think she was a Beagle Pit Bull cross because she was a sweet dog, but she was fiery. Like one time she got into a fight in the middle of it, like right at dawn or right before the sun came up. And I remember going to my bedroom window thinking, what the hell's going on? And I see my dad out there with a hockey stick, just swinging it like crazy. And he said, yeah, these 2 freaking dogs came up and started grabbing her. You know, she was only like 30 pounds. And he said, I'm whacking them off of her. And that idiot, she jumped on him. She kept running after him. And I'm like, yeah, because when we were kids, I used to take her to the park, and she didn't look for a fight. But if anybody started stuff, even if it was a big dog, she didn't give a shit.
Yeah, she's with it.
Yeah, it's that terrier blood in them.
Mm-hmm.
They're feisty, and they're you know, that's part of why the pit bull is the way it is. You know, the bulldog side is more the strength, the bite, the tenacity. The pit bull, the Irish side is more of the gameness and the and the intensity, that prey drive, and the going after varmints and stuff like that, not giving up. So it's in pretty much all terriers to some degree.
Yeah.
And it didn't surprise me. So whether it was Pit Bull or Manchester Terrier, that's where it's coming from, that terrier side.
She didn't look anything. She had funky ears like a fox terrier almost, but the rest of her kind of looked like a beagle. And she had that beagle hair too. But that dog lived to be 18. I came back home once. I had to take her. I wasn't going to put her down because she was blind. She couldn't hear really good. And she had a bad tooth pain. And I took her to the vet. And the vet, I told my brothers and sisters, hey, say goodbye to Manny. I'm going to go put her down. So I came home. I was like 27. And I went there, and the asshole vet said, why do you want to kill her? I'm like, what? She's old. He goes, why do you want to kill her? She has a strong heart. And I said, you don't know this dog, man. She can't see. She can't hear. She's barely alive. So I took her home and then filled her up. And a week later, my mom calls and says, we can't find her. She took off. We don't know where she's at. We looked everywhere. We never found her. She must have just walked off and died. Yeah.
Yeah, probably did. Be by herself. But, sometimes it's more cruel to keep them alive than to just put them to sleep because they're suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the big thing about breeding dogs too, especially kind of bulldogs that a lot of people can't handle. I used to be like, oh no, I'll find this one at home. I'll find him at home. And then I find him at home and then I get some horrible freaking story. The dog got loose and got shot or whatever. I can tell you a million stories.
Killed the neighbor's cat or whatever it is.
Oh, I had a guy that I sold the dog to and everything checked out. He lived here in St. Louis, which I rarely ever sold dogs to anybody in St. Louis. But anyway, this idiot called me and said, I can't keep the dog and this and that. And the dog was like 4 years old. And I said, well, I'll come get him. No problem. He goes, well, how much are you going to give me for him? I'm like, I'm not going to give you nothing. I'm having to take care of the dog you're supposed to be taking care of. So he goes, well, let me think about it. So about a year later, I get this guy call me up and said, yeah, I want you to testify. The Kirkwood police shot my dog. And I'm like, excuse me, who the hell are you? And he goes, I got one of your dogs and the Kirkwood police shot him. I said, well, what? How did you get one of my dogs? So he told me he got it from that guy. And he said, yeah, that stupid ass neighbor of mine let his dog out and they fence fight. But it's not my dog's fault or something like that. So when they came and saw a golden retriever fence fighting with an American bulldog, they thought, oh, this pit bull thing, bulldog, stupid. So they just shot him.
Yeah.
So yes, I've had worse stories than that, but it's just sometimes it's less cruel putting a dog down, calling it, than it is trying to find.
It's funny with dog people, they're not familiar with them. They don't know how to handle them. And a lot of these situations can be avoided or stopped if you just understood dogs, how to handle them.
Oh.
Cops should carry braking sticks. All these people they should have a braking stick. Simple way of separating the dogs. You don't have to panic, but most people are panicking, yelling, and you get a crowd. This is my poor, this and that.
Boy,
you see, you could see a pit bull walk up to a cop, not aggressively, but just go to them, and they'll shoot them right in the head because they're scared of dogs. What are you scared of? Getting a vet because you don't know how to handle dogs.
You see those TikTok videos and all that stuff. I'm like, some of them are like, somebody needs to choke that dog out. He's crazy. I don't know if you never saw him before or what, but yeah. Oh yeah. That's the pitfalls of messing with bulldogs. What do you know? Have you had any experience with American bulldogs? American bulldogs, there's two different types. One side, there was a guy years ago called Joe Painter, and his brother-in-law, I think, was a guy, Mike Margentina. You ever heard those names?
No.
Joe Painter. Okay. Well, the rumor was they said he crossed a lot of pit bulls, which I'm sure he did something. But the rumor at the time was that Joe fought dogs and that they ended up going to prison. And then I think they just told people that it was for fighting dogs because Well, I used to get a lot of those performance American Bulldog guys, the standard guys. They used to talk about, we game test our dogs and this and that. I'm like, huh? So,
Well,
I mean,
I'll say this: that what little experience I have with them, because there have been pit bull guys that got out of the pit bulls and got into the American Bulldog, right? So those guys, and because of their background, they roll them. The best they would tell me about them is they were good for about 20 minutes and then they quit. That's about the longest they could go. It's kind of like what's his name? Dr. Switzer or Schwartz or something like that. He developed a band dog. And what he wanted was a protection type of dog, a tap type of dog that would also fight and not quit. He couldn't get it, himself. And he was a professor. Right. And he went through this process breeding this dog. So he developed the band dog, but as far as being a game type fighting dog, it didn't live up to that standard, because when you add something to it, even like an American Bull, it may have a lot of pit bull in it. It lessens that side of the traits. They're not going to be there. You might get one that's game here and there and like that, but those are going to be exceptions. So you're basically breeding the gameness side of it out of it by adding this mix.
Oh yeah.
Right. And you can do that. If you're trying to develop a different breed, that's fine. You can use pit bull for whatever. But most people don't do that. They don't have a way of, most people just mix dogs because I want to see what happens when I cross a Labrador and a pit bull or
a Chihuahua with a Dachshund. I think if the truth were to be known, that's what kind of developed the early, what we call now an American Bulldog. It's just a country bulldog. I think that's what happened. People would somebody had Colby dogs or whatever, other fighting dogs, and they had their culls and then thought, this is a good dog. I'm not going to put it down. So-and-so's kid wants it or whatever. He'll be a good farm dog or whatever. And so they started getting these dogs, and there's even songs. One of my friends that wrote a book about American Bulldogs told me there's even old songs from the South that talk about my bulldog so big he don't fit on the front porch and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact they took Great Dane, and hog hunters, they don't give a shit. I mean, they're not dog breeders. So all they want is a dog that would make their job, what they love to do, easier.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, a friend of mine, Henry Lewis, he's been a friend of mine on these dogs for 30 years. He's from North Carolina, and he was telling me 25 years ago, he was going back because he said, oh yeah, down south, I always saw these dogs everywhere. He said, there's a guy that used to be a meter reader, like the water meter reader. Said he used to have a big dog called Rascal. He was a big, thick bulldog. He said he had a big head. He said he didn't have a smashed nose, but he had a wide muzzle. He was a heavy dog. And he said that sucker would sick him on anything. And he said that dog would win. He said he'd get beat up for the first few minutes, and then he'd just crunch. He'd crunch the other dog. Yeah. Well, that guy and his dad was still alive, and they bred catch dogs, and they hunted hogs. That was the thing. So they bred catch dogs and they bred bay dogs. We went back to him after all these years. The old guy still had a couple dogs, and I said, when you get there, ask him, where do these dogs come from? What are they? And he asked me, he says, I don't know. They've been around forever. He said, but sometimes if they don't catch, we'll put a pit bull terrier in there. And sometimes if they don't have wind, we'll put a plot hound or a black mountain cur in there, which really all those breeds have pit bull in them. Plot hounds have pit bull. I have a hog hunter friend. He's gotten into hunting coyotes and got these walker hounds. And he was telling me, this is a certain strain. They got game bred pit in them. They're really good. They run for days. Here in Missouri, they call them July hounds, which I never heard that until about 10 years ago. Yeah. They're basically like a foxhound, walker hound, similar stuff. And, they'll throw a pit bull in there to get a little more grit to them if they get, if they grab the coyote. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what the American Bulldog is. I tell people that, and some people are like, you're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about, which I don't know any of this for a fact. I just it makes common sense. that American Bulldogs are castaway catchweight pits that were bred to whatever, who knows what. Somebody
why
probably,
not? Because
Sometimes,
in the first place, they didn't keep records anyway.
right.
So they might not even know where the hell their dogs come from. They know they just added this and that. And the best catch dog I saw, he had inbred pit bull in him. And then he had other breeds, hound dog, Great Dane, this and that. He was about an 80-pound dog. He could handle a 400-pound pig by himself. It's real smooth and slick, smart. So I think a lot of that, you know, if you like, I know hog hunters, I've been on several hunts. They just want a dog that can catch and do the job. And they put Catahoula, they put Black Mouth Cur, they put this and that. And they have pit bulls, some have staff in them. And it's just a matter of seeing which ones can do the work and which ones can't.
Yeah, that's what I used to tell these performance guys. I always talked about rolling dogs. I said, well, the American Bulldog's not a fighting dog. It shouldn't be. It should be a catch dog or a farm utility dog or whatever, a state guarding dog.
Right.
But mainly they should be a catch dog, which catching a pig requires some grit and tenacity and courage too. Clear headed.
It does.
But it's not the same as the contest you know. So
exactly. If people understood that, and they would have an appreciation for the dogs, because every breed and every not just dogs, every whether it's horses, chickens, greyhounds, whatever it is, that's bred for a function has their own form of gameness. It's not the same as a pit bull, but they're not bred to do what a pit bull does. It's like some pit bulls, they're good catch dogs. Some ain't.
Yeah.
Some pit bulls, it may be a game pit bull, but it ain't worth a shit for hunting. It's not. You have to have a particular standard for that particular job. And I've seen, you can't just put all catch dogs in the same category. Some of them are not very good. Some of them will trade blows with the hog. That's dangerous. They're going to get killed doing that. Some of them are not smart enough to get out of the way. Some pit bulls or whatever breed it is that's hunting coyote or even raccoons, they're not good for that. They take too much damage. They have to know how to get in there on the prey within a few seconds, a minute, whatever it is, and hit the spots that kill the animal. If they're not doing that, you can't repeatedly hunt them over 2-3 day period because they're taking too much damage. So just because a dog can do something doesn't mean it's good at it, you know?
Oh yeah. I produced a dog, and I produced heavy colored bully type American Bulldogs because I outcrossed standard blood that had a lot of color. Matter of fact, there was a strain of American Bulldog that comes from Louisiana, Mississippi called Man of War. And this Man of War dog, supposedly, I don't know if it's true, but this was a rumor. He was in the journal. There was a guy called Coach Pete, I think his name was. And he had a dog, and supposedly he campaigned this dog, Man of War. Of course, nobody's ever seen a picture of him. And there's all kinds of rumors. He was a game bred Bolio dog, bred to Greyhound, Bull Mastiff. And then other people say, oh, he's just a pit bull crossed with this or that, whatever. But anyway, that's the first outcross I bred to. Have you ever heard of a dog called Man of War? That was
Man of War, Man of War, they get the name from the horse. He was a very famous racehorse, right?
I imagine there's a couple of pit bulls. Man of War.
Tudor had one that he used in competition. So I would guess it's just they're borrowing that name, just like they do a lot of different names. But yeah, that's a name that's been used for pit bulls before.
Yeah.
Swineford, whoever put that up, Swineford, that was the professor, Dr. Swineford was the one who developed that band dog. Yeah. Thanks for doing that, whoever you were.
Oh, there's a
Drew the dog man.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's been a lot of crosses back to pit bull, and most of them nobody said anything about. But of course, that's the positive in our breed. The negative is there's been a shit ton of English American Bulldog put in, and it's a kiss of death. I mean, it makes a cute dog, but they die.
I think that's what the bully has in it. A lot of that. That's why that structure is that way.
Those bullies have everything.
Oh man.
I've heard.
I even had a VHS tape back in the day, which these guys, it sounded like they were the originators of the bully, right? So VHS tape, that goes back to the 70s or whatever it was. And what this guy was saying is they wanted a dog that looked tough but wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, that's what his interpretation of a bully was. You know, it looks like a badass, but it's not really. You know, it's kind of nice and a pet and all that.
About 25 years ago, I had a friend in California. He's dead now, but he said, V, you got to get into these ghetto pits. What the hell is a ghetto pit? He goes, oh, well, they got two lines. They got Juan Gotti and Razor's Edge. And I'm like, well, what the hell are they? It's like, oh, they just keep breeding them for bully looks, for bully looks.
Yeah.
And I've gone to a couple shows of those. You ever been to an American Bully show?
Oh yeah, I've judged in all breed shows, and I've judged in pit bull and bully shows. I judge the pit bulls, and they have other people judge the bullies or the other breeds. You know, kind of like they do with Yukonuba.
I went to my first one, 20-something years ago, and it was in Peoria, Illinois. I drove there, and I was with one other friend, not a dog guy, and we walked through, and I'm like, what the hell kind of dog show is this? They had hip hop music playing. They had these one guys brought in like 2 leather couches, these velvet ropes, and these boxes where they put their dogs up there. And it was just strange. It was so weird. And the dogs, it was like a freak show. I'm like, that dog looks like it has basset hound in it. Yeah. And it's funny because I'm sitting in there it was packed. There's people, and I all of a sudden hear from somebody, Vito, what the hell? How would anybody know me here? This trainer friend of mine from St. Louis. And he goes, I said, hey, what are you doing here? He goes, man, you stick out like a sore thumb. I'm like, wow, why do you say that? You're the only guy here with dad shorts on. And I looked down. I'm the only one that had shorts that were 5 inches above my knees. So I kind of think some of the dogs are cute, but I don't understand. I don't understand the whole. I see some of them and I'm just like, oh my God, it's horrible. The dogs look like they got their front legs coming out of the side of their neck and their ass is 3 inches higher than their head.
Can't walk 10 feet. And for me, I love dogs, right? So I don't hate bullies. And I've seen some well-built bullies, that have good structure and all that.
Yeah.
But I just feel sorry for the dog, because what's the purpose of having like that? They can't walk 10 feet. They have trouble breathing. Can't breed them naturally. All this stuff. And I've seen the same thing. They have them up on a stand and they're clipping their nails and they're fixing them up, making them look pretty, like a model at the
it's a
show,
culture shock. Because when I was a kid, you went to a dog show and it was snooty people with a lot of money and really manicured, perfect dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Or
there you go.
Just a regular guy like me, kids, we wanted the baddest dog. We wanted, what was cool was it, maybe it was size and stuff like that, but it was like the most athletic, the most strongest, toughest dog. And I just don't see that in a lot of the kids nowadays. Nowadays, it's like, what the hell?
Well, that's my background. I want healthy dogs, good structure, have a purpose. I don't care if it's your house dog and he protects your kids or he keeps varmints away from your chickens, whatever it is. That's the way I grew up. My dad had dogs. We had dogs when I was young, all different kinds. We had cow dogs. We had working cow dogs because we had cattle and horses and all that. So the intention was to have, if you're going to have something, it has to have a purpose. Even if you have cattle, chickens, all like that, they're going to lay eggs and you're going to butcher them like that. So that's my mindset. But that's something that, in my opinion, that's what you should have animals for a reason. And if it's a pet, that's fine. But how many pets are you going to have? You can't have 10 of them. They can't all live in the house. And some people do. They have them running around. My daughter does. She got 2 or 3 dogs inside, but not a whole breeding program of them.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're breeding these dogs for what? For their looks and for what it says on the pedigrees. And unfortunately, that's transferring over to a lot of the pit bull guys now. They just have them. The first thing they show you is a pedigree. Well, in my day, nobody showed you a pedigree. They didn't want you to know how their dogs were bred. It's none of your business. and you didn't ask because it was insulting, right? And if you got close to them and you had a relationship, you brought in, and maybe they give you a dog, maybe they sell you a dog, this and that, then they give you a pedigree. But other than that, that wasn't the first thing that came to mind. It was, what can the dog do? And that's why I got along with these catch dog friends of mine, because they were using them for hogs. So we had that same background of, I have these dogs for a reason. And the ones that make the grade, great. The ones that don't, they're gone. There's a saying with hound dog hunters, dog won't hunt, or dog don't hunt. If it don't, they don't keep it. They don't breed it. They don't make these excuses for it, because it doesn't serve any purpose. And now you're feeding something for nothing. You're not going to get anything out of it. So that's kind of my train of thought. It always has been since I was young, because that's the way I was raised. If people did that more, believe me, if people had that mantra or that mindset, they'd love their dogs more. They would be more proud of their dogs. They'd be more proud of their program. They would be breeding the best that they had, and be selective and keep only the best ones for whatever it is they're using them for. And you wouldn't have, a lot of times people cut these dogs loose because they're cold, so they're not going to put them down. That's okay. They're not going to spay neuter them. Okay. But you're giving somebody something that you don't want, something that's not worth it. So if it's not worth it to you, what makes you think it's worth it to me? Why would I want it if you don't want it? It's just, to me, okay, it's money. They're gonna make money because they're gonna sell this dog that they don't want. Now you're giving somebody your problem.
In our breed, we have the main oldest registry is called NKC, National Kennel Club. And they used to have a rule, because NKC is like a huge, all the field trial hounds and all that stuff, that's who they use. And they all had this, what they call a 7/8 rule. So you could outcross to whatever you want, but it won't be registered till it gets back to 7/8. And so there was only like one guy I know of, or two maybe, that did that in American Bulldogs. One guy, this guy, well, I can't remember his first name, Weaver, and he got with a guy called John Lickhart, and that Weaver guy had bought a dog from Floyd Boudreau off of Maverick. It was a black bitch called Zydeco Dancer. And so they crossed that to what they call a performance American Bulldog. It comes down from that painter stuff that's many generations of those guys saying they're game testing their dog. And it produced a pretty cool 50-50 dog called Jet. But then they bred him back to the American Bulldog stuff, and they produced a female called Black Betty. And I know this for sure from two people that I trust, that she was just a belly crawler. She just pissed herself. And then she was bred to her dad and produced this real pretty dog called Carol Jean. And a friend of mine that I think produces the best standard type dogs, this guy Bullhead in Pennsylvania, he used them. And he said, I just use them because they're probably pretty clean genetics, but the dogs I saw weren't really worth the crap. But he bred really tight in the stuff. So it's kind of there's, like I said, there's two sides. We got that side that, they think like that. And then we got the other side that they just think the giant fat English Bulldog that just waddles around. It's cool. It's the coolest thing on earth.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's just cool to look at, or it's unique, an oddity, Now, when you say outcross, you're talking about mixing, bringing a different breed in.
Yeah.
And then and then they breed it back to the original stuff until it's 7/8, and then they'll register it, right?
I think it's a good practice if it was done right. If it was tested every generation.
It is, and you can do that. I mean, it does. It after about, because that's what that comes up all the time. Well, this dog's got this pit bull has hound dog in it. He's got this and that. I said, okay, I don't agree, but let's say they did that. What are they going to do with it after they do that mix? They're going to breed it back to the pit bull. And they're going to take the offspring of that and breed it back to the pit bull. So after 3 or 4 generations, whatever that mix they put in, whether it was Mastiff or Bully or Merc, whatever it is, it's gone. That influence is basically gone. So you could do that. It's just, for me, for my purposes, my background, I wouldn't do it because it doesn't serve my purpose, because that first mix, it's going to screw my stuff up. And then I'm going to have to fix it over the next 2, 3, 4 generations, where I didn't have to do that in the first place. I don't have to add a hound dog because I want my dogs to have better air. I just find a pit bull, a bloodline like Boleo or Finley's Bow stuff that has good air, and I'll use that. And I don't have to mix anything else into it, you know?
Yeah, I think if you go back in pits and any bull type breed, it goes back to those Allants, whatever the hell Allant was, because they weren't bred like modern dogs are. They're just a type of dog. If it caught something, or if it was a war dog, oh, that's a Allant. But I think looking back at old artwork of boar hunting and all that, you see these dogs are like, I don't know, that looks like a Borzoi greyhound mix, or that looks like a pit bull hound mix or something.
Yeah.
So
it's just that time period where breeds were not established by an entity. So they're going to have all different kinds of names. But the important thing is it served a purpose. It fitted their standard, whatever they were using it for. And over a period of time, most of them are going to kind of look the same. And then when they added a mix in, something else, a different breed of dog, it was for a particular reason. And like I said, you can do that. You can do that. But the standard has to be the same, whether it's a war dog or whether it's a hunting dog, whatever it is. That's how breeds are developed in the first place. You take a bunch of different breeds of dog, you put them together for a purpose, and you have standards and rules, and you're only breeding the ones that fit those standards. So after 3, 4 generations, you're going to have a new breed of dog. But the problem is they're not doing that. They're not, hey, I'm trying to create something here. No, I just throw it together and that looks cute like that. Whatever.
Yeah, the ears look good. The head looks good. This dog's 100 pounds. This dog's 100.
Yeah.
And you look at him and like, dog's about 75 pounds, but he's got 20 pounds of blubber on him. But
on him for what? Yeah, that's the other thing.
We get all that. I started like in 2000. I don't do it anymore, but I went to a dog show, outdoor dog show in Dacula, Georgia. And I'm showing my American Bulldogs. Back then I had bullier type dogs. And it's hot, man. It's like August. It's the dumbest time to have a show outside in Georgia. And here I'm walking back to put my dog in an air conditioned van. The Rams run's got air conditioner on it because I don't want to be hot when I put him in the show ring. And this dude walks up, this toothless hillbilly guy, and he's got this little dog. He's the coolest freaking little dog, little brindle dog. He's tearing ass all over the place. He's just not breathing funny. And I'm like, what is that dog? He goes, it's an oldie bulldog. I'm like, oh wow, that's the neatest one I've ever seen. And I started talking to him. I said, I watch that dog show every year, Westminster, and I don't know why you guys don't use those little staffy bulls. Cross that to English or whatever the hell it is, and you probably make a better dog. And he goes, his dog's name was Jack Dempsey. He goes, I did it. Jack Dempsey's a quarter staffy bull. I said, really? He goes, he's a 24, his grandma was a 24-pound Yankee staff. And I'm like, what? And the funny thing was, he told me, and I bred him to a Hermes oldie. I don't know if you know who Greg Hermes is. He developed a strain of Old English Bulldog. Actually, I shouldn't be talking about it, but I don't think I don't know if he cares. But he used to be a pit fighter, a pretty good one, from what I understand. He and his family were steeped in it, and they were not just they knew their way around a dog.
Right.
But I think he also got involved in drugs and went in and out of prison. But anyway, he had found an English Mastiff that was like 30-inch tall, not as huge as a regular one, he said, but it was alive. It could do things, run around. And he just wanted to see what he could do. So he bred it to an 80-pound Carver pit and produced this dog called Rolex that just looked like a freak of nature. And then he started putting English Bulldog in, or American or something. I don't know. He produced these giant-looking English Bulldogs, but they were actually kind of healthy for a while. But then, like I said, he was getting in trouble, and I think he was in and out of prison. And so this guy bred a 120-pound Hermes Bulldog with this 27-pound Yankee staff. And then he bred that he bred that to this dog. He said he just called it a country bulldog. And I said, well, what is it? He goes, I have no idea. He goes, but down south here, every time people get broke, they'll sell their bulldog. And they're just crossed up dogs.
Yeah.
So
well,
anyway,
those little staffs are nice dogs, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I bought that. I wanted to buy that dog because he was like a 40-pound, 38-pound, just perfect little bulldog. Just like a Staffy bull. Wags his whole body, happy.
Yeah.
Not afraid of nothing.
A lot of energy.
Yeah. So he's like, I won't sell Jack Dempsey, but I'll sell you his sister. So I thought, I'm going to make a little bulldog. I thought that would be kind of cool. So I bought his sister, and I bred all kinds of stuff. But I bred English Bulldog, I bred for some of my American Bulldogs. I did all kinds of stuff. I wanted to make a little dog like Jack Dempsey that was 40 pounds, maybe at the most 35 pounds. That would be just a cool little alternative to an English Bulldog. Well, anyway, I called it the Alu Bowl. I did it up until, well, one of my friends still has one of my dogs, but I didn't have any passion for it after a while. But I found when you outcross, because I outcrossed those and I inbred them, but it seems like sometimes when you outcross, and I'm with my American Bulldogs, I'm outcrossed the standard American Bulldogs that have nothing to do with the Johnson blood that I started with. There's no line breeding, nothing common in 5-6 generations. But after doing all these inbreedings with these weird outcrosses, I found that the outcross, it almost doesn't matter which outcross. It's like all you do is you reshuffle the deck, the genes come back a little different. Stuff pops up that hasn't been seen for a while. Mm-hmm. And then, if you keep breeding back to the same stuff. So that's I think dog breeding back in the day, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if your dog had a little collie in it. Because once it gets down to an 8th, it's not going to make a difference. And I look at all
a lot of times that outcross, as you call it, it's just a catalyst to get to the next generation.
Yeah,
without having too much inbreeding or too many faults like that, because eventually it's going to be weeded out. It's like with the Carver. A lot of people say, well, he bred the staff because his neighbor across the street from him and then down the road a little bit had staffs. So people thought, he bred to those staff. He might have, because some of them kind of look like that. And a lot of times pit bull guys, they breed to the staff because there's a common lineage between the two. And they did it because it increases the mouth in your dogs, right? So there's some commonality way in the back. And you want higher performance as far as bite goes. And then you go back to the pit bull and the staff is kind of, it weeds itself out after a couple of 3 generations. So I see people doing that. And for me, not every dog, like in my pedigrees, with outcrosses, if I make an outcross meaning pit bull, but totally unrelated, if that breeding didn't produce superior athletes, the outcross for me didn't work. It's not good. But that blood itself, even though, I like it, I like the performance, I like this and that, that's not what I'm keen on. I'm just using it for some added performance and to get to the next generation so I can keep line breeding my blood. That's how I use outcross with pit bull.
Yeah, sometimes it helps you if you want to crank down. I did a breeding, a friend of mine had done a breeding, and it didn't produce the nicest looking dogs or anything, but then those dogs produce really nice. Yeah. And the dog was 7/8. I mean, I've seen some pit bulls that breed like that. 7/8, one dog. I call it the hub dog. So it's like a father bred to his daughter, then the daughter from that bred back to the father, until it was 7/8 that dog.
That's that dog.
So, so you need some fresh genetics in there if you're going to do that. I mean, you got to
definitely.
I mean, sometimes I think pedigrees are like the roots of a tree. You got to have some shit in there to feed it. You can't have all the same mineral.
Yeah, that's an old pit bull term too. There's always, you got to have a little shit in there.
Right.
And
let me ask you something right quick, Schoolboy. When it comes to performance, right? And you took probably the high the best 2 dogs for performance, on average, how much did that litter turn out for you for as a percentage?
Well, if I used, performance bred animal, the ones I competed with, or ones that were I tested and all that, what happened over time, because I mostly line bred, is I started getting increases in the number of pups that worked out in the litter. That's how I judged the improvement of the breed or my family of dogs.
Right.
By doing that, in future breedings, if I didn't get at least a 50% litter or better, I wouldn't breed those dogs. I wouldn't continue with those dogs. I could compete with some of them. They were good enough to win, but they didn't have the traits that I liked, or they had traits that I didn't like, and the percentages of the litters wasn't high enough for me to continue with that blood, with that particular breeding. So unless they, came from high performance litters, high percentage litters, I wouldn't breed him. Even if he was a grand champion or a badass dog, if he just won in the litter, you're dropping your odds that if you continue with that side, you're dropping the odds of getting higher percentage litters in the future. I wouldn't do that.
Let me ask you to what Doug just asked, or what he just mentioned. What do y'all think about this? The 7th, 8th dogs I've come across were used as brood dogs for outcrossers. What y'all think?
That's one of I know breeders that will keep 2 separate lines, tight bred, right? Whether they're inbred heavily or heavily tight line bred dogs. And then in their own yard, every once in a while, they'll cross those 2 together to get battle dogs or competitive dogs. So typically in the past, the brood dogs were inbred dogs. Well, me, the way I am, I don't care how a dog was bred. If I'm breeding it, it's a brood dog. And it could be an outcross dog that's a brood dog. Because if you follow the history of the breed, and even let's take the ROM list, Register of Merit list. Most of those dogs on that list, the males, I did this with the males, most of them were competition dogs, meaning winners, champions, grand champions, and they're not inbred dogs. So you can use that method, and brood dog in the past, that's what it meant, inbred dogs. But for me, that's not good enough. Because when you inbreed, the first thing you're going to lose is performance, gameness, structure, constitution, durability. And inbreeding has its place. So if you make an inbreeding and it works, that's great. And if you got what you wanted, it worked. But going past that, keep inbreeding and inbreeding after that, you'll destroy your blood.
You lose fertility and size as well, right?
All that. You have mental problems. You have health problems. I know dogs that were inbred, different breeders. That's why you don't see their dogs anymore, because they inbred so heavily, they ruined their own family of dogs. And that's why they faded out. That's why you don't see them anymore. They lost performance. One of them, they came out blind. They bred the dog, well, he threw blind pups. Dang. One of them didn't have one kidney, only had one kidney. Ooh. They have bad structure, and they have mental problems, meaning one female, she would lick she was in a kennel on the pole. She would lick the pole all day long. Just batty as hell. Heavily inbred.
She was a pole licker.
Yeah, like that. I mean, some of them will bark all day long nonstop. Now, there's a lot of dogs that do that reason, but that's a direct result of that dog being inbred, because her ancestry didn't show that these dogs bark all freaking day long. Yeah, she was nuts.
Yeah, crazy.
It's like the pole licker. They're so, they're so screwed up in the head that they have to do something. Some of them will chew and dig and all that, but eventually, they'll stop. They get tired of doing it, they stop. These dogs would not stop. All day, all night, bark, bark, bark. All day, all night, lick that freaking pole, no matter what you did. You try and redirect, beat the hell out of whatever, I'm just using examples. Not that my friend didn't do that. but he could never get her to stop doing it. She was heavily, heavily inbred. So that not always the reason why you have these quirks in these dogs, but that was the reason for them dogs being like that, because their lineage didn't show that them dogs did that. So it had to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm that's why I always tell people, you know, stay away from that purity. That purity will kill you. Stay away from that inbreeding and all that. You know, it has its place. Go too far, you're gonna lose everything you worked for. It's happened over and over again throughout the history of the pit bulls. I don't know about anything else. With pigs, you can inbreed the hell out of them, right? You can. It's not a problem. You know, but with pit bull, with racing horses, we mentioned that before. You know, Joe, on this channel, thoroughbred race horses, they don't inbreed shit. They just don't. It doesn't work for them. They need that fresh blood,
Right.
and you don't have to keep your blood going. What you're doing when you breed is you're following the traits. And even if you're outcrossing to a different bloodline, the way I did it is I bred to another line of dogs that had similar traits to my own, because they have a propensity to throw those same traits. For example, if you have, let's say they're ear dogs, and I breed an outcross, I'm going to make sure I'm breeding the outcross another ear dog. If I have ear dogs, I'm going to breed to ear dog outcross.
Mm-hmm.
Stifle dog, I'm going to breed like that. And it could be structure too. It could be certain temperaments and behaviors. So even though they're not related, when you put them together, because they share the same traits, you're going to get them.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Gotcha.
So inbreeding has its place, man, but you got to be careful.
Yeah.
You know. And so let's say you inbreed and now they're all screwed up. What do you do after that? Well, you go back one generation.
Mm-hmm.
Go back one generation and take it in a different direction. There's always a way to fix it.
Yeah.
But if you think you're going to fix it by keep inbreeding, you're going to mess it up more, man.
Then you got to leave yourself a way out.
You do.
You got to leave yourself a way out. Yeah.
I've done a lot of inbreeding, but my breed is scatterbred to hell. Like when I started out, looking back.
Well, that helped, Vito. That helped.
Yeah,
it does.
When I started out, it was not a weird thing. You go to look at a litter and you saw a pit bull, a boxer, an English bulldog, and a Saint Bernard all in the same litter.
Yeah.
I had a litter like that. I had this female Casino Queen. She was from this big, crazy looking dog called Tyson. He was a good, healthy dog, but he was a three-quarter Johnson-y kind of blood and then 1/4 painter. So he was an outcross dog. And he could throw his size, he could throw his bone, he could throw a pretty good temperament. But other than that, anytime he was bred, he didn't show up. And whatever the bitch was, usually whatever the bitch was is what he'd just make it a little thicker. Well, my female that I started with, Broadzilla, she was his daughter. And she was more 7/8 bred. But I had another female from a breeding to him called Casino Queen. Man, she was nice, big, great temperament, everything wonderful. So I bought my dog Broadzilla's brother, this dog Stash, from a guy that was selling him. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to breed half brother, half sister off this big dog Tyson. This is going to be awesome. Because I knew everything. I was going to reproduce him. You breed half brother, half sister, right? I had that litter. She had like 9 puppies. I had 2 that looked like standard dogs. I had a boxer. I had a huge dog. He was gigantic. And he looked like an English bulldog bred a Saint Bernard. And then I had one I sold to some lady, some gal, and I had to replace it because it didn't get over 55 pounds. So it was just, that's how, now looking back, probably the pedigrees I was looking at had different breeds in it or different dogs that weren't what they said. And that's just the way it was. That's just the way it was. But I did do the work.
It's that way across the board,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some dogs that were inbreed that nobody knows they're inbred that actually expressed pretty nice stuff. Actually, when you do the inbreeding, I never had produced a dog that's like, wow, oh man. I've had good dogs. They're good dogs. Right. But then when I breed them back to a dog that's not quite as same blood, but not quite as tightly bred, that's where I seem to get genetic change that lasts. So
Yeah.
and I've done everything. And I've had people that say, well, you got to breed tight. If you don't breed tight, it's not right or something like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I tell
Well,
people,
I mean, I've been hearing this stuff for years. Okay, let's say someone told me that. I asked, well, where's the proof? Show me. Give me some kind of facts, some stats, some records, because I can tell you all kinds of inbred pit bulls that were badasses, like Miss Rage, like champion Havana Boys champion Budweiser, right? And Red Boy champion Hog Dog and champion Yellow Dawn. Those are exceptions. For every one that I could say a badass, I'll name 10 of them that was badasses that weren't inbred. So you can use them. They have their place and they're important, but that's not how you get athletes. It's not.
Right.
Not if you honestly, if you're honest and you follow the history of anything,
Right.
especially the pit bulls, it doesn't show that. And this is going back to the 1890s. All them dogs we named, the Pinscher and Gas House Dog and Fly of Panama and Kager, you know, whether it's Boleo and Art and Boomerang and all that, they ain't inbred dogs. Those dogs have bloodlines named after because of their potency, because they could throw good dogs and they were performers. They're not inbred.
Right.
So when somebody tell me that, that's what I'm going to do. I always ask questions. How did you come to that conclusion? Where'd you get that from? Usually it's because somebody told me, some old fart told them that, and that's how you do it, this and that. And Red Boy is kind of the exception in that you could heavily inbreed those dogs and you still get performance. But I can't recall one Red Boy dog, whether it's, inbred to a certain extent or heavily inbred, that was a grand champion. I don't think there's one.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to knock them. It's just that it becomes limited no matter how. But you can inbreed red dogs heavily, and you still retain a lot of those traits.
Mm.
And to a degree, you can do that with Jeep dog. You can't go much more than 3-4 generations with Jeep dog inbreeding. But still, you're going to lose performance. You're just trying to retain certain traits. You're trying to retain strength and speed, intensity, gameness. But if you're looking for mouth and super athleticism, you're not going to get it. It don't happen. And if there is one or two here and there, again, those are exceptions. That's not the rule.
Mm-hmm. How in your experience, and you guys' experience, when you have did some inbreeding, on average, how many generations did it take to lock in traits? Did it take one generation?
That's it. Yeah.
in my breed, there's so many different things floating around, and so many different, not just that they're scatterbred, but you got one guy that's like, he breeds for this, he breeds for show stuff, structure, this and that. And then another guy breeds for just freaky proportions. And then you got standard guys that think they're breeding pit bulls and they think they're game tested them. I used to tell them, you can game test a poodle. Doesn't mean it's a pit bull. Doesn't mean it's a fight dog. You can game bred Labrador. You can do that with a Labrador. Yeah. It's, the American Bulldog should be a dog that you can go in the woods, catch hogs with, hopefully 3 or 4 or 5, 10 in one day. And then they come in covered in blood and your kids can jump on them and use them as a trampoline.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The best catch dog that I've produced that was tested, way tested in American, in catch dog guys, they call them woods dogs because they're proven catch dog. They'll bet their life that this dog will do the job every time. Well, I have this dog, actually I called him Mayday. That's another long story. I have a lot of my dogs. I have a Daibo, I have a Honey Bunch, I got I can't even remember. I have a bunch of them. It's just a joke because everybody thinks I'm crossing pit bull and greyhound and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Dog. Because I don't breed dogs. I don't breed bully dogs like everybody else. I use the standard blood and I select way different. I try to produce a dog that can actually work. But anyway, this dog Mayday, he was an okay dog, like 85 pound dog. Great, good puppy. and he was all fawn colored. And I named him Mayday because I was just so sick and tired of hearing that shit. So I gave him this hog hunter, and I didn't know if that was early on. I'd only dealt with a couple hog hunters. I didn't know that this guy would, he used him as a running catch dog. You know, my dogs had breathing issues. You know, all these bully dogs have had breathing issues. I wouldn't have let him do that, but I didn't know. So he tells me, he's like, yeah, I hunt in this big holler, and there's a road around the top, and all the hogs are way down there by the creek. I just let my dogs loose, and I drive around. When the GPS shows me they're caught something, I go in. And he said, yeah, my uncle said, you can't do that with no bulldog, buddy. He ain't gonna be able to walk tomorrow. You know, and he did. He would clock, sometimes they clock 12 miles on that GPS collar, and he caught 2 or 3 hogs. But people think that hog catching dogs are real crazy aggressive. This dog would run in. The big thing is they'd run in with zero hesitation and grab a mouthful of the ear or the jowls, and then they become a boat anchor. He'd push back, but he'd almost look like he's sleeping. Because once the bulldog jumps on, all the bay dogs will jump on, and then you can go in and take care of stuff. But I also had dogs from other performance American bulldog guys that, you know, their thing is how badass their dogs are, and they're badass dogs. Not taking anything away from them, but I've sent them, you know, some to my friends that are hog hunters, and they're like, how'd that dog turn out? Oh, he ain't worth a shit. I'm like, no, are you kidding me? He goes, oh, he'll catch. He said, but then I break him off and I tell him dead pig, and that son of a bitch just wants to get after it again, the dead pig. He said, then I try to catch him to put him in the box, and he said, he's jumping all over me. I got blood on my face, and he's just acting like an idiot. Or I had one, I stole this guy, he still has her. She's half my blood, half this one friend of mine down in Arkansas's dogs. And he said, that dog's crazy. I'm like, wow, why do you say that? Because I put her in the back of my side by side. We drive through trees, and bitch will grab a branch, and she rips it. He said, go to let him out. They got leaves all over the thing. She's just stupid. She's too hyper, too stupid. So, I mean, that's part of the thing. The old timers used to say, you can teach a dog anything. You teach them once, they know it, and they'll catch. They're not dog nasty. They all that stuff. And that's the other thing too. You got to put your dog in a dog box. These guys don't have special places for the bulldog. He's got to ride with the other stuff. And if he grabs their hounds, they'll kill him, because the hound, you can't find a pig, you don't catch nothing. You got to have those hounds. So the American bulldog is totally different than pit bulls. I know a lot of pit bulls, they adapt great to that. But I'm sure if you had, you know, Jocko or somebody like that that's been schooled or whatever, he might not. He might be looking for too much action. But
those are great points, Vito. And I spoke on exactly this the other day in a video, and I've done it on our other podcast. Yeah, you're right. You should just go ahead and say it. Most pit bulls ain't worth a shit for catch dogs. They're not manageable enough, and they'll end up fighting whatever they're running with. That description you gave of catch dog, that's what a catch dog is. Those are the best ones I've seen. They ain't the ones that trade with the pig, and they ain't the one that's fighting. It's not a fight. They're there to catch it, hold it, use their weight against the pig, almost like an anchor, you said. That's a catch dog. And that's why a lot of pit bulls, they don't make the grade for that. They'll catch the hog, they'll fight the hog. That's not what the hog catcher wants. They want him to pin that hog down, keep him immobile so they can run up, drop his black legs, tie him up, kill him, whatever they're going to do with the hog. So, yeah, that's what I meant earlier when I said not all catch dogs are good at it. You know, they're not. That what you described, that's a catch dog. Them old farts, they knew what they was talking about, you know?
Oh, yeah. And see, that's what I think for generations, that the bulldogs that were considered culls or curs to the fighting dog guy, he, you know, especially if they're big, if they're 60 pounds, like 50 pounds, like, oh, this thing's too big. He's slow. You don't have the wind. You don't have it. They give it to a rancher or a hog hunter, and then those hog hunters They may cross the Plothound in or whatever works. They don't really care.
Yeah.
They just care about making their job easier. Catching hogs is what they want to do.
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
care
I
about
had a friend. I have a friend, and that's what he did with his pit bull culls. He gave them the hog hunters, and if they worked out for them, great. If they didn't, they called them. But he gave them a second chance. They'd take them, and some worked out, some of them didn't. So that's a good other thing to do. Everybody's heard that pit bull is versatile and they can do anything any other dog can do. Well, to a certain extent, they might do it, but it doesn't mean they're the best at it or even good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes pit bull don't make good hunting dogs. They don't, because they're fighting the prey. They're not killing it. If they don't have finish, killer instinct, it's not good. You can't. You need to have a dog that knows how to catch the prey, whether it's a raccoon or a squirrel, whatever it is, a coyote, whatever. Finish it as quickly as possible without sustaining too much damage, so that they can hunt again and again and again. I have friends that Joseph, I think he's been on here, or he's been Mink Man, right? The Mink Man. I don't know if you've seen his channel.
I think he was on Buck's channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has dogs for particular reasons, for ratting, for hunting, and he's gotten some pit bulls, and he's trying to find another one. They're not good for hunting raccoons. They don't do the job.
Yeah.
So for his work, they didn't make the grade, and it's frustrating because, again, those killer instincts, a lot of them have been bred out of the dogs, or they just lost the instinct. And it may be good for fighting, if fighting was legal or something, but not good for hunting. So yeah, the pit bull can be versatile. It can do all kinds of shit. But again, that doesn't mean they're expert at it. It doesn't mean they're good at it.
Yeah. I mean, they're individuals, so there's all different stuff. And I know a lot of pit guys and breed, they used to have 50, 100 dogs because in the litter, they'd be happy to get one or two that worked out.
One. Yeah.
Game.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Same thing with American Bull. I sent dogs to pit hunters, not pit hunters, hog hunters, and I've gotten them back. They tell me, I have a female right now. Matter of fact, she had litter puppies 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago, and when she was like 2 or 3 weeks pregnant, I woke up in the middle of the night. I heard all kinds of hell break loose, and it sounded like a little puppy was just getting mutilated, just screeching. And I jumped up and ran outside, and I had my flashlight. I was walking. I thought, wait a minute, I don't have any puppies. I don't have any little puppies. And I shined the light, and it was a raccoon. It was a big, big male raccoon on his 2 legs, and 2 of my dogs are going at him. Coming to take it. I couldn't see good, so I got my car and pulled it up to the fence. And I'm like, just kill him already.
Yeah.
She shook him good and must have broke his neck or something. But the weird thing is that my headlights were shining through the other side. My dogs all have huge yards, about 150 feet by 100 foot. And I've got my light shining. I'm looking at the other side of the wire fence. There's a coyote going by. I'm like, what the hell? I guess he heard that raccoon screaming like a baby. And got brought in.
Came to check it out.
And I went to go shovel him out of there the next day, and it was like, this thing's huge. They stretched him out. He looked like he was 3 foot tall. I get that every once in a while because I free feed my dog. I use these big tin feeders. I know most of all these people are like, oh my God, that's horrible. I feed cheap kibble, and from the minute they're able to walk around, I have all the food they want to eat. So they kind of regulate they don't overeat because it's always there. They don't care. I used to feed them raw, but now it's just too much hassle, and I got fights, and I like to keep everybody male, female, and big yard. So I wish if I was retired, maybe I would do it that way, but I feed cheap kibble and they thrive on it. They do good on it. So
all these dogs that we mentioned in the past, that I mentioned, that's what they ate. They ate crap. And if you look at these keep
scraps
way back in there, they're giving them toast, and they're giving them corn, and they're giving them. So that's one of the not controversy, but one of the debates we're having Does quality food make that much difference? I'll say yes. Can a dog survive and do well, even compete on what would be considered not the top grade food? Yeah, the history shows that too. So I know people, they fed Old Roy and Purina High Pro and all that. These are champion and grand champion dogs, and dogs that traveled different states and competed. They had different handlers. They're eating different diets when they changed owners or they're borrowed or lent out. So to me, if the food is balanced, I don't care what you're feeding. The diet is balanced, it's good. You may, let's say you feed them some crap food, and then every once in a while you give them a piece of liver, you give them a piece of chicken or some hamburger, or they get a carrot or something. It's all relative to me, anyways. Right. There's so much information, and that information always keeps changing, even through the years with human food. This is good for you, and now it's not. This was crap, now it's good. Oh, we were wrong about red meat. Now red meat, it's good to have a red meat diet in the past. Oh, yeah. Don't eat grains, eat grain. For me, I don't care. Our dogs ate anything. Anything I gave them, they ate it. And sometimes they caught wild animals and ate them too. Or a chicken or a snake or whatever it was. I didn't give a shit. It's all food to me.
Right.
And if they're active, if they're healthy and active, they're going to burn it off. And they're going to, you're going to feed them something else. But what I've seen lately is dogs are picky, or they have allergies, or they have, really, he's allergic to chicken. Mm-hmm. It don't make no sense to me. Or you can't feed him a banana. He won't, or he don't like bananas. Or he don't like carrots. Or he don't like, what happened to dogs? Because our cow dogs, we fed them whatever, man. I'm talking beans, salsa, tortillas, rice, whatever. They got a piece of chicken here. They got scraps. My dad never bought them dog food.
Yeah.
He did whatever was left over. That's what them dogs eat. And they ran cattle all day long. Exactly. Never had a problem. Never had no injury, no diet, no stomach problems or diarrhea or anything like that. Mm. They caught squirrels and rabbits and all kinds of stuff. So to me, food is food. Now, maybe I'm old fashioned or whatever. And there's all this new science and all that. I don't dispute it. But I just know from experience, Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I said I feed raw, but I do got enough experience in my 46 years to know that, a lot of time we forget about the genetics of the dogs, giving us long life. You might have a dog you feed kibble, he live longest dog that's on that raw. You know what I mean? And and you just feed them the best you can. Just like with athletes. You might have somebody who been drinking the alkaline water, being an athlete all his life. This motherfucker fall out from a heart attack.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, I read this old, he was old game file guy, right? Mm-hmm. And he talked about diet, and he had a particular diet, just like I didn't feed my dogs crap. They got good, solid kibble. They got meat, all this stuff. It was good, right? Mm-hmm. And he was talking about Olympians, right? And he said, well, in the Olympics, I forget when this was, in the 60s or 70s, right? He said the Swiss trained on fish and the Ethiopians trained on beer. the Filipinos ate lizards, and the Americans from the Midwest, they ate potatoes and beef, and the ones in the South ate crawdads and all,
Yeah.
So a diet, like I said, if you're getting the nutrients, a diet is a diet. What does it matter? Mm-hmm. We feed certain things in the United States. Well, what do they feed their pit bulls in the Philippines or in Guam or in China or in Russia? Maybe the Polish feed their pit bulls onions and sausage. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But if they're healthy and like that, it's good food.
What is the gripe about kibble? Is it you got all this grains free shit?
It's a lot. It's all baked.
Yeah, right.
Most of it's made out of cereal, like cereal companies. They have to run the quirks or whatever the stuff through there until they get it just right. They give you all that away. It's all to the dog food guys.
Yeah. In my opinion, the problems where you see that they're having, like they'll say salmonella or E. coli or something, or they have some problem, it's the way they process the kibble. And I did some research because the kibble I used was cooked to 400 degrees. And people go, well, that kills all the nutrients. No, I don't. And all those additives, all the vitamins, minerals, and all that, they add that after the kibble is processed. So it's not cooked. The additives and extra nutrients aren't added to the cooking process. It's afterwards. That's when they add it.
Mhm.
But I did some research, and I'm finding out that these companies, they're only cooking the kibble to 80 to 120 degrees. That's not hot enough. That's why they're getting salmonella and E. coli in the food. It has to be cooked to at least 140 degrees.
Mhm.
So just like meat, you can cook beef to 140. Chicken, I would cook it, and pork, I would cook it to 160. Like that. It has to be cooked to a certain temperature, or you're going to have that blood poisoning or E. coli or salmonella or something like that.
Right.
And it could be, the process when they're processing the food, it's not clean. There could be rats around, or dirty floor or whatever, and now you have all these dogs getting sick. And it could be the degradation of the dogs themselves. Their immune system is low because they don't do shit with them. They're just couch potatoes,
That's what I think. That's what, years ago, I watched an interview with Jack LaLanne. Remember that guy, Jack LaLanne?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they asked him, they said, what is more important, diet or exercise? And he goes, I hate to say it because diet is important and, good food's important. He said, but I've seen these super athletes that are incredible. They're Olympians. They're fantastic, but they eat garbage. He said, so if you're
garbage.
Yeah, so if you're like an NFL football player, they used to smoke and drink and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But I think that's true with dogs. Like I have every one of my dogs has a huge yard. I mean, it's bigger than most people's whole lot their house is built on. And then I have usually two big horse troughs that I fill with my well water. And then I got a 50-pound dog feeder in there. And there's two dogs, usually a male and a female. I rarely sometimes have a female that just won't tolerate the male, but usually there's two of them in there. So they run and play and they exercise themselves doing all kinds of crap. Keep fighting raccoons or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
I
agree, Vito.
Part of it. Like if you're a super athlete, if you're burning calories, sometimes, you could probably get away with not eating the best. I mean, some of the shit people eat nowadays that we are fed, this processed foods and stuff, that's not going to be good for anybody. But back in the old days, if you're eating beans or you're eating pasta or you're eating whatever your mom made, potato salads or whatever.
Yeah. As long as I mentioned that too. As long as you're active, that's what makes a difference. My dad ate all kind of whatever, man. They because they were poor, right? And look at George Foreman or Joe Frazier. They come from sharecroppers. They hardly didn't get no meat. Big burly guys hit hard as a freaking donkey kicks. And they had corn. Hopefully they had some bread. Maybe they drank milk. Hopefully scraps. Sometimes they didn't eat. Jack Dempsey, sometimes he would go 3 days without eating. They call him Jack the Giant Killer, the Manasseh Mauler. He was vicious.
Yeah.
So people were sturdy and had toughness and durability and all that. But they didn't always have the best diet, but they were active.
Yeah.
And as long as you eating, you're going to get some nutritional benefit from it. And if you get lucky, you get meat, maybe chicken once a day. My grandfather you make a beef stew, right? And then you eat all the food or whatever. And then he'd take the bones and save the bones. And then he'd boil the bones and make soup out of that afterwards, I mean, until they were no nutritional value at all, he wouldn't throw nothing out, it just because it was all food,
Yeah.
Now
and you see these guys in prison, they're eating shit in prison. And they come out and they're buff and they could bench 400 pounds and all that, like they don't have the best diet. I don't care how much money they put on your books. The food there is crap. I've been in jail. And food ain't no good, but they're active, so they build muscle and they can run and all that stuff. So I don't know. That's always been a controversy. And I'm not knocking good food, nutrition, supplements. I use them, and I've seen the difference in feeding cheap food just on its own and feeding good food just on its own. But if you're feeding the cheap food and you add supplements to it, you'll be okay. Believe me, it's just a filler, basically. That's what that is. It's just
even with the raw, with the raw, I put some supplements in, and then the raw for me, it just, hey, look, man, I'm a little lazy. It makes cleanup so much easier, man. It'd be less poop, and where I live,
I'll say this too, Joe. You got family, man. You got to work. You can't be spending an hour a day, prepping your dog's food, man. That's just common sense. You know what I mean? I got to go to work, man.
For real.
It's like I hear these guys, I don't know if it's true or not, but they'll say, I can walk, my dog 15, 20 miles a day. Really? In keep, 15 miles, 20 miles. Shut up, man.
Yeah.
There's nobody do that. One guy put, I swam my dog and I'm in the pool with him for 8 hours a day. Really? 8 hours you're swimming your dog? So you don't go to work, you don't sleep, you don't shower, you don't eat, you don't spend no time with your kids or your wife. Mm-hmm. That's all you're doing. Because if you're 8 hours working and 8 hours with the dog, that's 16 hours. What are you doing with the other rest of your time? You got to sleep sometime. Mm-hmm. You gotta whatever. So I think they embellish a lot of that.
They do.
Because even if your pace is 5 miles an hour, right? 15 miles would be what? 5 hours?
Right.
I don't know, something like that. So you're out there walking 5 hours every day, 6 days a week, 4 days a week.
Yeah.
They may work up to 15 miles or 25 miles maybe and do that for a few days during keep. But you ain't walking no 15 miles for 8 weeks, man. I guarantee you.
Especially when you got several dogs. That's why I messaged you the other day, man, where I found a treadmill at.
Right. Why do you think those apparatus were invented? You know? Because for one, I mean, some of these handlers saying that, you look at, man, you can't walk no 5 miles, much less 15. Mm-hmm. You're 6 foot tall and you're 450 pounds. Come on, dude. 5'8" and 300 pounds. You ain't walking no 5 miles. Quit lying,
Yeah, sure is. Yeah. I hold on. That binder, hold on. It's leveled to cheap foods. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I had a vet on here talk about that. He really didn't believe in, he didn't really go into it, but raw diet, he said, man, kibble is good enough. He said,
my friend's a vet. My friend's a vet. I work for her. I do stuff for her. I take care of her horses 2 days a week. And he says stuff. He said, dogs are not carnivores. I'm like, I think they are. She, oh no, they're omnivores. They can eat anything. Well, they can. I mean, I could eat, dandelions and live, but that doesn't mean I'm not a carnivore. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in an ideal situation, I've only got about 12 dogs. I used to always have 20, 25. If I win a huge lotto and I could hire an army of people to help me do all this shit, I would do it. I would love to do. I'd love to just stay home and see how I can push my dogs into all kinds of stuff and do sport work. I'd love to do that, all that crazy stuff they're doing with pit bulls. They run up the wall and they do the treadmill runs and all that kind of stuff. It's just all athletic stuff. Like in American Bulldogs, a friend of mine that wrote the book, American Bulldog book, he and another guy in California started this thing called the Iron Dog. And it was like a test, but really it's just an athletic competition. I won the nationals with my dog Joe in 2012. And it's like a sprint race.
Excuse me, who's the guy who ran that Iron Dog?
Dave Putnam. He's one of the guys, him and his friend. He used to, I don't know if he's even in the breeding, but he wrote a book about American Bulldogs. Real nice guy. He's in California. He's an artist, actually. Pretty cool artist. And they started this. It was pretty cool. It was like you do a sprint race, then you do a hardest hitting. And hardest hitting is where a guy puts on a sleeve or a bite suit, and you send your dog from so many feet away, and it slams him, grabs the sleeve, and hits him as hard as it can. And then they have a weight pull. That's the triathlon. And then they have a 5 event where there's a tug of war between 2 dogs. And then they have hang time.
Okay.
And My dog Joe won the whole freaking thing, the nationals here in
Oh,
St.
nice,
Louis at Toronto. Yeah, we
nice.
competed against Malinois, band dogs, pit bulls, and standard American bulldogs. And I'd never done hang time with him ever. One of my late friends, he that's what he loves to do, hang time and all that kind of shit with his dog. And I'm like, we got supposed to do 3 minutes on this hang time. You think we can get him to do it? Oh yeah. So he's like, just keep yelling at him. So I'm like screaming at him, telling him, keep it going, Joe, keep going. And he held on, and then we won. But I love to do that kind of stuff. I tried to do PSA with my dog Clyde. We had everything down, but I'm just not good with the obedience and all that stuff. And a lot of those guys, they'll pay somebody to help with the training to finish, to do the obedience work. Those dudes are like $3,500 for this, $3,500 for that.
Oh, gee.
I don't have time to spend. I don't have money to spend 10 grand on my dog.
Yeah,
I wish I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They used to do the hang time at some of the events in Mexico, but they cut it out because they measure how long the dog stays there, right? Well, some of the dogs were staying there 2-3 hours, man. Like, how many are you going to do? You know what I mean? Even if it's 30 minutes, you know, if you have 10 dogs, you know, that's going to take you hours to finish that event. So they kind of cut that out.
I think all that running up the wall and all that high jump, all that came from Mexico, from guys in Mexico with these pit bulls. Remember, like a long time ago, they were doing all that stuff. I'm like, whoa, that shit is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's
I judged she was the top wall climb female in the world. Her name was Antara. She's on all these videos and stuff. And she was from, I forget, I think she was from South America or else Mexico. But she was like a staff, mostly staff blood. And man, she had the record at the time, which was like 15 feet or something like that. And she went all over the world. This guy traveled everywhere. Nice guy. I got to judge her in Mexico.
I'd love to do that kind of stuff. Of course,
yeah.
I don't know how 85, 90-pound American Bulldog would do. They've done, some of them have done it. I don't know how high they go.
Yeah, I've seen them. Even, in fact, the last event I did in Mexico, they had German Shepherds, they had Greyhound, little Staffies, you know, and they were doing all the sports, even the weight pull. That little Staffy, he pulled about, let me see, it was over 2,000 kilos. So it's over 6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
That little Staffy pulled that, you know. And then he did the treadmill. They have a lot of energy, man. They're real neat little dogs. And they had a little a whippet or something ran the treadmill race too. And that's a good thing with the races. Even at the pit bull events, any breed can compete in those legal races. It's not just pit bulls, you know. So it was neat to see that. They do it up in Mexico, man. I mean, they'll have thousands of people there, 20, 30, 40, 50 vendors, you know, and they have like exhibitions of dogs doing tricks and police dog training, attack training with the suits on and all kinds of stuff, you know. It was real cool, man.
That's what I'd love to do, that stuff. It's athletic competition is what I look at it as. And the dogs love it. Bulldogs love. My dogs love to slam the shit out of a guy in a sleeve. My dog Clyde, it was his favorite. He didn't hate the guy. He had no aggression towards humans. He just when he saw that guy, he thought, man, we're gonna fight. We're gonna play.
Yeah.
You know? It was just a fun thing to do.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Another thing I learned from reading pit bull books and talking. I've met all kinds of pit bull guys before. One guy I didn't even know. I didn't know what he was. Back in the 80s, he actually was a customer of my dad's. I didn't know it till later, but he was a real wealthy guy. And I saw him one day and he pulled this big black dog out of his car. And it had white hairs all over his face, all over the place. And he was taking the harness, like a dog harness, and the dog was, you know, grabbing it, and he was flipping around. And I asked him, hey, what kind of dog is that? This is, you know, I was a younger guy. I couldn't tell it was a pit bull because its ears weren't cut. And he goes, it's a stray. It's a stray. It's a stray.
Yeah.
But then I learned as I, now looking back, all those white scars, all those white hairs were from scars.
Yeah.
And I had another guy where we used to live when I was a kid. There was a big park, and there was a area of the park that was like wooded, and nobody really went back there. It was just like desolate woods. Well, I was back there with a friend of mine, and I noticed these people had this fence. It was a wood fence, but it must have been 9 feet tall. And you could kind of see through the cracks a little bit. And I could see dog houses. I thought, what the fuck? What is this? So I crawled up. I crawled all the way up the fence and stuck my head over. And it's all these dog houses and all these chained out dogs. And I guess I kind of knew. I thought they're like Staffordshire Bull Terriers or something. And so this dude, he was like an old farmer that used to own, his family used to own all that property where they built homes. And he goes, what the hell are you looking at? Oh, and I was going, shit. And I jumped out. He goes, no, come back, come back. So I'm like, oh, I don't know why. I turned around and went back. And he's like, opens the gate and lets me in. And I started asking, what kind of dogs are those? He goes, they're strays. They're strays.
Yeah.
That would have been like 1975, 4. And a lot of people didn't know a whole lot about pit bulls.
No, they didn't. They didn't. I got a little dog. He was a 34-pound dog named Ronnie from Ronald Boyle's. I named him Ronnie after Ronald Boyle. He was a gift. Neat little dog, terrier looking. He's mostly Boleo bred. And I'm walking down the street, and this guy comes around the corner, and he has a dog with him. And that little Ronnie dog, he was just a primal dog, wild type of dog. And he saw the dog, and he just nutted up, started screaming. And the guy's looking like that, and his dog's barking, And so I picked him up, and whenever that happens, when I'm out in public, I just take off, pick my dog up, and just leave. So I pick him up to leave, and the guy goes, "Hey, what's wrong with your dog? Is he scared?" I said, "Yeah, he's scared. He's scared of your dog. That's why he's
got nervous.
I mean, he was screaming, he's fighting me, trying to get loose, And he goes, "What kind of dog is that?" I said, "He's a mutt, just a mutt." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, mine's a pit bull. He goes, "I know your dog's not a pit bull because you got a thin head. He's got a skinny head and all that. It might have had some pit bull in him, but he had a long hair and a fat tail." He goes, "Yeah, I got a pit bull, I said, "Yeah, I heard about them dogs, but no, my dog, he ain't no pit bull. And he's scared of your dog. That's why I'm leaving." If I'd have let him go, he'd have cut loose on that dog. But yeah, they didn't know. They didn't even now, some people, they think pit bull has a big old head and a big old body and a round chest and like that. But back then, even less. They weren't well known to the general public.
I have a friend. I'm still friends with him, but almost 30 years ago, he had pit bulls. He didn't sell pits. He had just mainly a yard full of red boy Jocko dogs. He probably had 15, 20 dogs. He eventually got rid of them because his wife said, "You're going to stop this or we're going to get divorced." But anyway, I told you I had those little, I called them Alu bulls. And I was talking to him. I thought, I wonder, instead of using Staffy Bull, if I use a small pit, what would it be like? He goes, "Oh, I got one for you. I got our house dog, Toby. You can come get him anytime you want." So he lived about 2.5 hours from my house. And at the time I had like a little Jeep. And I stick this dog, Toby. My friend's like, he's just our pet. He's not worth a shit. He's not game. But he's a good varmint dog, he said. So I put this little 40-pound dog in my Jeep, and I stopped to get gas, and it's got a rag top. And I don't know, he didn't act crazy or nothing, but he didn't have his ears cut. He just looked like and he was a muddy brown color, like just dusty, chocolatey, ugly kind of color. And I'm getting out to put gas in. I'm thinking, oh shit, everybody's going to know I got a pit bull in my car. I got a real pit bull in my car. And nobody thought anything. And I stopped actually to walk him, make sure he had to go to the bathroom. People are coming out like, "Oh, what kind of mix is he?" I said, "I don't know. What do you think?" People are like, "Oh, he looks like he's got Labrador in him." I put him back in the car. I bring him home. And of course, I'm freaked out because I'm like, this dog's been rolled. And this dog is, because my friend said he's not game. He didn't make the cut. He's just our pet. We love him. And that son of a bitch, I had him running with puppies. I had to litter little puppies. They were all over him. Like he was so not dog aggressive. He didn't show any signs of dog aggression. But I was looking at him and I called my friend and I'm like, dude, this dog looks like a whippet with a big brick head. I said, do you think they put whippets in these dogs? And he goes, no. He goes, it's just an athlete, athletic dogs, and looked like an athletic dog. But I'm like, I don't know. This son of a bitch has a roach back and he's thin boned and he's got a deep chest. He really looks like a whippet with a brick head. I had bred him to my female and took him back. And then the next day I went to work. When I came home, I had this big American Bulldog, like 90-pound dog. And at that house, I had indoor, like doggy doors that went into this little kennel room. And I come home and the stupid dog's like, he's sitting with his ass in the doggy door. And I was like, Logger, what are you doing? And he comes forward and that female was tied to him. And she was a little tiny, like 40-pound dog, 45 pounds.
They were breeding?
English cross. He bred her, yeah.
They were breeding?
Yeah. So I checked, I DNA'd the pups and they were from my American Bulldog. They weren't from the pit. So I never got a litter from that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Shorty Bulls.
Yeah, I've heard of them, yeah.
Shorty Bulls. Well, the gal that started the Shorty Bulls, we were friends years back, and she bred American Bulldogs, but she also always liked these English Bulldogs. And she had an English Bulldog that would run an A-frame and do hang time and all this shit. And I thought, man, I'd like to breed that to one of my little dogs. So we worked out a deal, and she got one of my dogs that came off of this dog I had, Mojo. Was probably one of the best dogs I've ever had. He was a Staffy Bull. He was that same 27-pound Yankee Staff bred to an English Bulldog mix, like an oldie. And he just looked like a Staffy Bull. That skin was wrapped over an English Bulldog. He had a Staffy Bull head. And he was the cockiest, most fun dog I've ever had. Anyway, she got a dog for me called Panda. And I don't know exactly what they did, but I think they crossed it to a Frenchie or something. And that's what started those dogs, those Shorty Bulls. And now I think those Shorty Bulls have made their way into all those American Bully pocket dogs.
Probably did.
Yeah. Hey, guys,
yeah.
I'm gonna take some questions if y'all don't mind.
Oh,
Sure.
I was gonna ask you one thing.
Okay.
There's this video. I love watching this freaking video. And at first I thought, I'm gonna hate this shit. It's gonna be some crazy liberal whacked out woman. But it's called Why Dogs Fight: The History of Fighting Dogs by Heidi J. Nast. It is the fucking best. Like the first 30 minutes of it is awesome because she talks about some origins of dog fighting in England and the parallels between the people and the pit. These were like these coal miners and chain makers, all this historic stuff. And basically she's not she's not somebody talking bad about pit bulls. She's basically like, it's her thrust or their little organization, whatever it is about poverty. But it is the most interesting thing. I watched it like 3 or 4 times. It's called
I haven't seen it.
Why Dogs Fight. It is so freaking cool.
Yeah. What's
If you ever get a chance,
I'll get the name from you later.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Also on YouTube, Why Dogs Fight. Okay.
Okay.
I gotta
check it out.
Yeah, towards the end it gets a little goofy. You can see it's all about poverty and all this stuff. But the beginning parts of it, she talks about all the parallels and the motivation that created what today's, game dog contests are all about. What all the rules, everything. And it's pretty bizarre, pretty awesome. I watch it every couple months. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, I'll check it out. See if
Hey,
Schoolboy is Mike Tyson a cur.
what Mike Tyson? The real one?
Yeah, he means a real one.
Oh, Mike Tyson, the fighter.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this because that's come up. You know, there was a dog that quit, and the question came up, would you call him? I say, yeah. And they know I'm a Duran fan, right?
Yeah.
And Duran quit, right, against Leonard.
Yeah.
So the guy asked me,
that was out of frustration.
How can you like Duran? How can you like Duran? He quit. He said, if he was a dog, you would have called him, Richard. I said, yeah. Humans ain't dogs, so I don't look at them the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm a boxing history guy. I love boxing, this and that.
Yeah.
A lot of these great fighters that we talk about have quit.
Yes.
Either as an amateur or a pro. People that people love.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking not just Duran, Leonard, Larry Holmes, Rocky Marciano, Willie Pep, Alexis Arguello.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame people when they quit, fighters, because it's usually for a reason, right? And it's not even close to when some dogs quit. Some dogs quit rank, I mean, real bad, you know, screaming, hollering like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if Mike Tyson quit, which, you know, it looked like he did a couple of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't blame him because he got the hell knocked out of him when he did. But again, I don't look at dogs and people, pit bulls and people the same way. It's not the same thing.
Right.
It's not.
Right, because there's too many variances in that. Because to me, Mike Tyson isn't an all-time great. Not to me. Because if you know anything about boxing, they can build a fight up, give them the right fights coming up. But if Mike Tyson ever got into in it with maybe a top legendary Hall of Famer guy like Holyfield, he never beat him.
Well, I was a Holyfield fan when everybody was on the Mike Tyson team. You know, I liked Holyfield, and for me, just like dogs, boxers, I'm partial to who's the better taker, not who's the better pitcher. Right? The better catcher. That's a term they use. Who's the better catcher? Who can take more punishment? Rather than the guy who's a power hitter and knocks everybody out.
Right. And
Holyfield showed that. Even though Holyfield got knocked out late by Riddick Bowe, they're older. And Tyson was older too. As far as skill set and durability and toughness, I liked Holyfield better.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, styles make fight, all this stuff. They have all these cliches for boxing. Mm-hmm. I look at the overall record of people. And I didn't think, even when he was younger, that Tyson was unbeatable for two reasons. Mitch Green and James Tillis, or I forget who it was, he didn't knock them guys out. They weren't top tier guys. They went 10 rounds with them. Mm-hmm. And they made the fight competitive. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I'm figuring somebody who's not intimidated by Mike Tyson mm-hmm. and has skills, yeah, they can beat him because he's small. He's not a big heavyweight. He's a hell of a puncher. He had a lot of skill. He was quick. Mm-hmm. He was tough. He took good punches, but punches like Muhammad Ali, no. Punches like Larry Holmes, no. And that's why I admire those type of fighters.
I know. And even the lower tier guys, I see Minkfit said Mike Tyson in his prime will walk through everyone basically. See, but I don't believe that because, you know, them guys in the late 80s, like, I don't think Mike Tyson could have beat Ron Lyles.
No.
You know, I don't think he could.
And the difference is, or even a prime Foreman. Because of why? Because they could take more punishment than him.
And they were
bigger. And they hit hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They were very big.
Look at Ron Lyle and George Foreman. Mm-hmm. Tyson ain't never been in a fight like that, where it's knocked down, drag out. You're getting knocked down 2-3 times each.
Ken Norton. He couldn't beat Ken Norton.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't think he could beat those guys in that era. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And what happens a lot of times, if you follow boxing, a lot of times you'll see these old fighters and they fight past their prime. Mm-hmm. And they're fighting these young guys who either at the time or later on become world champion. And these old 39, 40, 41-year-old guys, they're giving them a hell of a fight. Well, what would they have done with those guys when they were young?
That's right.
If they can hold tough, even okay, Larry Holmes got knocked out by Tyson, right? He was off for several years, and he came back. Tyson caught him good. Okay, power.
Right up the couch.
But then Larry Holmes went on to fight Holyfield. He went 12 rounds with Holyfield,
Mm-hmm.
and then Holyfield turned around and knocked Mike Tyson out twice, or stopped him twice. And not only that, so did several other guys, and even not a top tier guy, Danny Williams or whatever, knocked him out too.
Yeah.
Stopped him or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy, man. If you look at Duran, he's 45 years old, still fighting top 10 contenders, in his late 30s, still winning titles. You know, these guys are a lot younger than him and a lot bigger. He's only 5'7", and he was a lightweight champion. He's fighting at 160, that's 25 pounds heavier, and he can compete with Marvin Hagler, one of the greatest in history, and he beat Iran Barkley, who knocked out Tommy Hearns, and Tommy Hearns knocked out Duran. But it's just that, you know, A beats B, B beats C, and then C turn around and beat A.
Right.
So sometimes the flash, the hard hitting, it's impressive, and it's the same way with dogs. I've seen tons of hard biting dog killer, and they do this and that. Well, when they get pushed back a little bit or have to go some time, they quit. And a lot of times they quit rank, man. They run away and jump out, and they're killers, but they ain't got no heart, man.
Right. That's funny. We talking about this, Schoolboy, because one of the shows I'm trying to work on is me, you, and 7-8 talking about boxing and dogs.
There you go.
Yeah. So if you hear before I do, tell them what we got, what I'm up to.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it, man. It'd be good.
Yeah. So,
I tend to look at not just boxers, but fighters and dogs, not just pit bull dogs fighting, but all breeds of dogs in the same way. I have to have an overall opinion of them. What do they do? How good are they at it? How effective are they? How much heart do they have? You know, a hound dog got to have a lot of heart for run 25 miles a day or shit, 15 miles, whatever they're running. I don't think a pit bull, just in regular condition, they couldn't run no 25 miles. Some could, but that's not their game. You know, that's a hound dog game. Yeah. Just like a hound dog ain't going to fight like a pit bull. So there's a lot of factors involved. And, you know, I love pit bull. That's my breed. But I have to be honest. And some pit bulls, they can do a lot of different things and they're good at it. But some things they don't like. I've seen pit bulls, game pit bulls, and they won't hit a coyote. It's foreign to them, you know. Because a lot of times the way the coyote behaves, they're coy or they lay down, they're scared. And then the pit bull won't fight it because the coyote not fighting. They just back off. I had one dog do that himself. He was a fighting dog. I had already rolled him. And he got loose from me, and my neighbor was walking two female little stinky dogs, and he ran after him, man, and I was right behind him. I wouldn't have caught him. He ran up to him, and they acted coy and got down on their haunches. And he just stopped. He wouldn't hit him. And this dog will hit anything.
Yeah.
so sometimes it's the behavior, you know. Just like my dogs would fight. I had to artificially inseminate them. Well, I had cur dogs come in and breed to my bitches that would fight. Why? Because the way this cur dog acted. He was coy. He'd sweet talk him or whatever he did. I don't know, but he's breeding my pit bull female who wouldn't breed to one of my dogs. You know, they fight. But this cur-ass dog off the street bred to her, you know?
Right.
There's a lot of factors involved, man.
Joe, will you ask Schoolboy about the Whopper line and the weight pull sport? Thanks.
I know very little about it. I had a buddy who was, we used to do pit bull shows, and he was involved in that competition. A lot of them, I think they have pit bull in them, and they have other breeds. They're big.
I can tell
they're
you
perfect for weight pull. Go ahead, Vito.
They came from a guy in Oklahoma called Eddie Eddington, and he was like the godfather of weight pull, and he had pit bulls for the lower classes. And there's another guy in Oklahoma called John Blackwell. And John Blackwell, he had Dog de Bordeaux's, and then he was going from Dog de Bordeaux's getting into a Johnson American Bulldog. So he took one of Johnson's dogs, this dog called Dick the Bruiser, and he bred it to this female Dog de Bordeaux, and it produced this big brindle 150-pound monster dog that was called Whopper. And he gave it, or sold it or whatever, gave it to Eddie Eddington, and Eddie Eddington got it registered with the ADBA and started a whole thing. And he kept crossing it back to the pit bulls that he had, and he would just dominate. He did it because he wanted to compete in the higher weight classes. And so all these Whopper pits, there's other people that did Dog de Bordeaux to pit bull, and I think Dagger and Camelot and all that stuff. And they weight pull that stuff. That dog, there was a dog called Chevy Red. He's just a monster dog. He looked kind of like a crazy thick pit bull, exaggerated pit bull. But they were great weight pull dogs.
The ADBA, don't they have a
they did it for
they
years.
developed, but don't they have it's like a separate breed? It's like a
now they did because I guess so many people complained, and I don't think they complained when Eddie Eddington got murdered. Somebody killed him with I think they killed him with a ball peen hammer over dogs.
Damn.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So he was a godfather of the weight pull, and people took those Whopper dogs. I don't think anybody complained until all of a sudden these XL pit bulls were getting crossed with that, and then trying to get ADBA registration, like the famous dog, what was that dog? The Hulk. What was that big 100?
Yeah, Hulk. Yeah.
And that's when too many people complained. They said, screw this. So now they have a new classification for those dogs, and they call them the American Pit Bulldog. What the American Bulldog used to be called. They call them American Pit Bulldog. And I think they're making some pretty nice dogs out of all that stuff. Not pit bulls, but they're big pit bull looking type dogs. I have a friend up in Alaska that has stuff down from a lot of that stuff. It's got some game dogs in it here and there, but mainly it's just all these big stuff. And it produces like 90 to 120 pound dogs that can actually work and stuff.
Yeah, my friend has a picture of his. It resembles a pit bull. It was a champion weight pulling dog in that class, that new breed that the ADBA put up. And he was like 110 or 115 pounds. He's a big dog.
The first time I saw them, I was at a show in Oklahoma, American Bulldog show, and they had a guy that came up to do a demonstration for weight pull. So he pulled all these, like, they had train tracks and all this stuff. And he pulled out this big, beautiful dog, big brindle dog with his ears cut. And he was like a 120 pound dog, the guy told me that. I thought it was a Presa Canario. I didn't see one up until then. And I came up to the guy and I'm like, hey, is that a Presa Canario? And he looked at me like, you asshole, get away. And he goes, no, it's a pit bull. And I just started laughing. I said, a pit bull? What line of pit bull is that from? And he just said something and walked away. He was pissed.
Do American Bulldogs, do they come in different colors? The ones back in the day that I was familiar with, most of them were white, spotted, patches like that. Do they come in all different colors?
They do now, thanks to me.
Right. Yeah.
The standard side had always come. It always had dogs that were heavy buckskin or red or heavy brindle, and then the guy that bred to the Boudreaux dog, he produced a lot of black dogs. But there was black. The black in my dogs comes from a tattoo artist guy from the East Coast that had bought an American Bulldog as a kid in high school, and he started going to this training facility. And he graduated from high school, and he was training his dog there. And some guy came in with this dog that was, I think it was like a Schutzen trained dog. It was a black and white dog. He said it looked like a real thick standard dog. But anyway, the guy showed up to the owner. He was friends with the owner and said, "Hey, take my dog. I got to get out of town or I'm going to go on a long government vacation." So he gave the guy the dog and left. So the guy had the dog for a while. And so anyway, this kid, he was a kid at the time, he got the dog and took it to college with him. And he said it was the coolest freaking dog. He'd go to all the parties with us. He could do anything. You know, he's an awesome dog. And so he bred his American Bulldog to it. And I don't know how he got it registered, but he got it registered. And I said, "Well, what the hell was it?" He goes, "I have no idea. It just looked like a big black and white standard American Bulldog." So that's where my black originally came from, because several generations after that, there was a dog called Aslan, and he was just an awesome dog. He caught hogs, he did man work, he did all this stuff. And his grandson, they advertised in something, and I thought, wow, I wouldn't breed to this dog. It was a big black and white dog doing hang time. So I called the guy, and he was in upstate New York, and I'm talking to the guy about shipping semen, because I was like, 26-hour drive, I'm not going to drive there with a bitch. And so this guy was like, he was like, I don't really know anything about that. He said, "Well, I got his daughter. I'll sell you his daughter." So I bought his daughter, and that's how I got black. And then there's a third guy. There was this guy called James Ellerby, who got dogs from John D. Johnson, and he's in Philadelphia. And he was at a dog fight or something like that. I don't know the whole story. And this dog lost, and they were going to put her down, I guess. And he said, no, I'll take her. She was all black. And they told him she was a Labrador pit bull mix. But now people think that it was probably a Neopit. And she just was a tall, kind of rangy black and black dog. She didn't look like anything to me. But he crossed that into his dog, says he wanted to create a black bulldog. John D. Johnson got the dog registered for him. It was a female called Champagne. But James Ellerby, real nice guy. He eventually died, and it didn't really go anywhere. But those dogs are floating around too. So,
Yeah.
and
Do you know if she threw any Labrador-looking dogs?
No, but she threw a blue dog, which I guess could come from pit bull, but they're thinking it came from Neo, because a lot of
it can come from pit bull.
Yeah, I imagine like Amstaff. I think they tried to pick that food, but blue in dogs is just a dilution of the color. So like if you take a black dog and it's diluted, you pull up the hair, you'll just see these black spots. But in a black dog, it has a lot of black spots. In a blue dog, they're reduced by a certain percentage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I know game dog guys for years said, "Oh, I'd never have me a blue dog. They're not worth shit." I'm like, well, it's just a dilution. You could probably get it. I'm not saying it would be good, but you could probably get it.
Grand Champion Soga, Antonio Bayonne Club, Grand Champion Soga was blue. They call him blue. It's more of a seal or a gray, right? Blue.
It's just like
killer,
a red
man.
nose.
5-time winner.
It's just like red nose. It's a recessive gene that takes all the black. Red nose takes all the black out and leaves like a liver color. And it's in the nose, the eyes, and the fur.
Yeah.
I produce chocolate dogs. I mean, I get guys, as soon as they see I got a black dog, they're like, "Ooh, he put pit bull in there." And if I got a chocolate dog once and I sold to this guy in France for a ton of money, and then everybody started telling him, "That Vito put a chocolate lab in there." I'm like, a chocolate dog is just a black dog with a red nose.
Yeah. If you do some research on colors, how colors come out, a lot of these guys will get explanations for why is this dog chocolate? Why is this dog blue? Why is this? And I mentioned this one time. If you're a painter, just a regular house painter or whatever, how do you make the color black? What colors make black? And they go, well, I don't know, brown. And I said, it's yellow, red or maroon, and blue or something. Just look it up. I told him, just look it up. It ain't what you think. You need yellow to make the color black paint. So if you're looking at dogs, like, why did that dog come out this color? Why? You have to know the lineage. You have to know the colors behind it, and you have to know how can these colors come out. If I got two black dogs and I breed them together, how come I got chocolate? Well, chocolate is like that delusion of black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Blue is that delusion of black.
Mm-hmm.
In my breed,
Brindle, to make brindle, you need red, brown, and some other color. I forget what. That's what makes brindle. So
yeah,
it's people
in
think
our
you just look
breed-
at them. No, I can't. It can't be that. No.
Yeah. In our breed, we have people that just don't even understand simple dominant recessive color. In dogs, a red dog, non-brindle red dog, red, brown, fawn, buckskin, it's recessive. And what most people don't understand recessive, all that means is the only color it can throw is red, non-brindle red. It can't throw black. It can't throw brindle. And then if you got a black dog, black is dominant to red. So all that means is that a black dog can carry red, the red gene. So you have two color allies, and if it's black and it throws black, the dog's black. If it throws red and the mother throws red, it's red. So a lot of pit bulls.
And then some colors both have to carry that gene for that color to come out, right?
Well, the dilutions
or that,
on the dilutions you do, because like if you want to produce a blue dog, the dad, well, one of the two has to be black to get a true blue, but he has to carry the dilution gene and the mother has to carry the dilution gene. If just one does, you won't get it. Same with the red nose. And since those are recessive traits, and red is a recessive trait, just meaning that they got no color to give except red. That doesn't mean they won't produce it. If you breed them to a brindle dog, all bets are off, because brindle dogs, they carry red, they'll carry black. If it's in the background, they'll carry all those colors.
That's why I want to ask you: is brindle?
They call it dominant.
Yeah, is brindle considered a dominant color or a dominant pattern?
It's dominant. It's dominant, and most people understand. They think dominant means it's tougher or it's going to go to war. No, it just means it carries. It'll carry fawn, non-brindle red, fawn, brown, whatever. It'll carry if there's black in the background, it can carry black. And there's also, I don't know exactly. I have a dog that's real famous called Gaucho, and he was the first black bully champion. But he looked black. You could never see any stripes on him. But he throws brindle, and I think it's because he's a black dog. Brindle is usually, sometimes it can be two colors. The stripes can be black, and the background can be brown or something. So if the background's black and the stripes are black, you can't see it. So I think that's what it is. And then I have dogs now. I have a dog, my dog Divo. He's dominant black. So both his two little allies that are color are both black. So far, every time I breed them, every puppy in there is black.
Both parents are black?
It doesn't matter. I bred him to a brindle female. Everything's black.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He's a dominant black.
I had a bully son dog. I had a bully son dog that I called it black brindle, because if you just look at him, he looked black. In the light, you could see the brindle in him, real faint. But also in the light, that black had a red tint to it.
Yeah, that's like.
So with brindle, I've seen almost every color of the spectrum. I've seen yellow brindle, red brindle, black brindle, brown brindle, brindle, red. It covers it. It just depends on how it comes together.
And sometimes it has the base color, a black stripe, and then a little cream through it.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool, but I don't have a lot of brindle in my dogs because black starting to take over. Before the red is starting to take over, because like I said, if you breed red to red, then you're just producing a whole litter of red. Matter of fact, that's funny. I used to listen to Fat Bill. Yeah, Fat Bill. He had a little YouTube thing, and there was a controversy about Eli. I think it was Eli because he was black. But then I don't know if it was Eli. He was from Blind Billy. Is Eli from Blind Billy?
Yeah, because there's not a lot of, or up close, there's the controversy. He's black. Why is he black? Because his ancestry.
What color was his mother?
Red.
Then that's not his mother or that's not his father, because
Well,
two non-brindle. If they're brindle, then all bets are off. Brindle can throw anything.
well,
But if they're two non-brindle,
his well, he was black. His grandmother and then some of his ancestors on the bottom side were black.
but if his mother's red, she don't matter what's behind her because she don't carry anything except red. She's a recessive. And his dad, Blind Billy, was red, right? I know he was a fawn or
a buckskin, buckskin.
but he didn't have any brindle.
Yeah. No, well, I take that back. Maybe her name was Spook, so I'd have to look. She was either red or black. I'm not sure. So you're saying if
she's black, black will throw black. But
if she's red,
if she's non-brindle red and Blind Billy's non-brindle red, those are two recessives. Forget it. Every puppy in the litter has to be red. Same with the red nose. Like if you breed a red nosed dog to a red nosed dog, the whole litter will be red nose.
Yeah, well, you can't get a black nosed dog from two red nosed dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Matter of fact, there was a pretty well-known. This guy's dead now, but he was a well-known breeder of American Bulldogs, and that's what he did. He bred two red nosed dogs and got black nosed dogs. And I wasn't trying to be a dick, but actually, I wouldn't have cared to be a dick with him because he threatened to kill me once. But I said, there's no way. There's got to be something else because that's a hard, fast rule. They, like I said, brindle dogs will carry all the colors. Black, there can be black that doesn't carry brindle. It just carries a red. But there's also black that is actually brindle, but you don't see the brindle. All that orange, all that kind of funky brown or weird gold hairs that come in black dogs, that has something to do with the pigment of the black. It gets bleached out by the sun, kind of like horses. If you ever see black horses, a lot of times they're in the sun a lot. They're kind of brown looking.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's some black horses that they don't. It takes a lot for their fur to get tinged like that.
Yeah.
And same with dogs.
Well, I made a breeding champion ninja to Miss Rowdy, right? So Miss Rowdy was red. Her father was buckskin. Her mother was red. Ninja was black. His daddy was buckskin, but his mother was black. So he's black. So I bred those two together. I got
all red puppies.
No, I got red buckskin and only one black pup out of it.
Yeah.
And people were going, how can that happen? They should have all been black because black dominant, this and that. I said, don't work that way.
No.
Yeah, it's the way things match up.
Yeah.
I
had a
and then my friend bred him to a red nose female, and all the pups were black.
Yeah.
He didn't get no, and she was inbred red nose, but he didn't get any red dog. He got all black.
Yeah. I took a blue female to a chestnut brindle and had every color. 3 blacks, brindles, blues. But one thing, let me ask y'all about this. So I was always taught never to breed a dilute forest blue to blue.
Because there's in some breeds it's real sensitive, like Dobermans are real sensitive. That blue pit bulls aren't too bad, but if you keep doing that, what happens? It keeps reducing the pigment in the hair follicle, and if you reduce too much pigment in the hair follicle, it breaks, and you get bald patches on your dog. Right. And I guess they could have skin issues too.
Very sensitive skin, but a blue brindle you can breed to a blue. I just want to put that out.
That might help a little bit because your blue brindle dog will carry red, it'll carry black, it'll carry all kinds of stuff. So maybe that would help a little bit. But I wouldn't advise doing blue to blue too much.
What about Formentino? You heard of that color? It's a fawn. It's a recessive fawn color.
So it's like yellow.
Pretty
like
much,
yellow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the whole thing. I don't know what the whole inheritance is. We don't have that. I had one female. She wasn't really cream colored or buckskin, but she was so light red. She looked kind of like it. I called her cream in the jeans. Her name was Creamy. But I'm not so sure how that goes. You know, nowadays a lot of ex-American Bulldog breeders get into the Frenchies, and they send that shit out. They get all these codes for this, all the different color
For
patterns.
money. They're just for money.
Know.
Oh
Yeah,
Frenchie breeders, they don't want to see Brennel, do they? I think most of them don't like to see Brennel. They feel like it's going to take over.
Yeah, because it's dominant, so it can throw. You can't. But if you breed 2 blues, you'll get all blues. You know, non-brindle blues, you get all blues.
But y'all right, they got all them damn charts and they got that color shit down to a science.
The only blue dog I've seen, I don't know what that was pit bull. Anyways, I've only seen one, and I've seen other ones, but they were mixed with Catahoula, so they had that light blue, dark blue patches. But I've only seen one pit bull. I don't know if it was mixed, but he looked all pit bull. That was actually blue. Most of the ones I see that people call blue are seal or gray color. So I don't know if a pit bull, even like Champion Whiskey, TJ Fisher Champion Whiskey, she has staff in her. She's what you would call blue, but it's actually a gray, right? But you look at her, that's blue, and she's pit bull. She's got like an 8th staff in her. But my buddy who owned her, he said the blue's not coming from the staff blood, Richard. It's coming from all this Eli stuff on the top side. You know, all the black dogs on the top side.
All dogs that have that dilution gene and the red nose gene, because you can find blue chow chows and blue Labradors and blue Chihuahuas. You know, I always used to get people say, "Oh, Vito put a blue pit bull in there, or Vito put a Neo in there." It don't work that way. I mean, it's anything.
Well, it always amazed me that these people, by looking at the colors or whatever, they know, you know, that, oh, it can't be that, or it can't be this. Well, you have to know how colors mix and the patterns and who carries what and what can be passed on and not. Because I always had a problem with that. They look at something and go, "I can't be that." Or why those bully son dogs, why they come out spotted like that? Right? Well, it depends on the crosses and it depends on where it comes from. It may be heavy on the bully son side, but if it has Arts Missy in it, or it has Stompanato in it, yeah, you can get white dogs with patches on them because that's in their lineage. But for someone to say, you know, this can't be that, or this, they have nothing, no knowledge to back up what they're saying other than what it looks like, you know.
In my breed, I get so many people. People buy a dog, they don't know anything. They buy an American Bulldog, it's white. And they're like, "White's the color of American Bulldogs." I'm like, well, white isn't a color, dude. White is a coat pattern. It's called a pied gene. It's called a white spotting gene. And what it is everywhere that's white on the dog, the hair follicle doesn't have any pigment in it. And they call it, dogs that have white feet and a white on their chest or maybe a little blaze, they used to call those Irish watermarks. And then you got piebald, which has got patches, and then you got extreme piebald, which is white, all white, up maybe a freckle. And then that's a highly recessive thing too. So if you breed two white dogs together, you're going to get more white.
Yeah.
So
I've seen white dogs with dark skin, with black skin. You know, the hair is white, but the skin is black.
Yeah, they can have pigment spots on their body. Matter of fact, a lot of the American Bulldogs, and then if they get that ticking, looks like they got freckles all over the place.
The ticking. When people see the ticking, they say, "Oh, it's got
Dalmatian.
Dalmatian in it." You know.
I used to get that too. I used to get people that say that. They'll say people saying
I want 10 White Rocks in it because he had that ticking in him. He was an absolute killer. You know, he won 5 matches in 1 year's time. So give me all the Dalmatian if it's like White Rock, I'll take it. I don't give a shit.
I got a question for you. Have you ever heard there was a breeder in England called Limey Kennels, I think, and he line bred on what, alligator blood? He line bred on that. Well, he wrote an article. There's a couple American Bulldog guys like, see, this is how you do it. Because he wrote an article that said, when you choose dogs, you need to pick on phenotype. So I picked black dogs that looked like alligator, and that's why I got more of their genes. And I was like, that's bullshit. That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, if you've been breeding a long time, you know, bullshit. Yeah, I've had dogs that, yeah, they look like their dad, but guess what? They act like their retarded grandpa. They don't have the ability. They're nothing.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're just looking at the color.
Yeah.
Color doesn't say. In our breed, we have all these guys that say, if you don't have type, you don't have a breed. And I'm like, well, that's true, but type isn't just the way the dog looks; it's the way the dog acts, what it can do. I mean,
those are the traits. Yeah,
that's type.
And
type
you know, he was a very competitive guy, very successful. I think he misquoted even himself, or it's just the fact that he had heavy alligator dogs, because he had other stuff too, and that's how they ended up looking. Because there's no way you can look at a dog and because even he acts good, or he's built a certain way, and his color follows this pattern and that, and say that's a good dog. There's no way. I don't care how the dog is bred, where he comes from. If you don't see him perform and you don't see the traits you need to see, he could be a twin to his daddy or his grandfather or his brother, they're all killers, and he's a POS. That has nothing to do with it, really. You just can't do it that way. If you're looking at structure, the way they're built, okay. You're looking at color patterns, yeah, okay. But as far as performance, now he either misquoted or he didn't understand what the hell he was saying, because that's not. He knows better than that.
They read an article that he wrote, and who knows? I mean, some of these guys they'll say shit to misguide somebody.
What?
I know.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're competitive,
that's why I asked you about the Labrador, right? I think they told that guy that half Labrador just to throw him off. I don't think it had Labrador in it. You know,
I don't think it was the most sophisticated ring of dog fighters. I think it was the back alley thing or something.
Yeah, could have been. But a lot of times, even myself, you know, as I research, as I learn different things, especially when it comes to color, because there's a lot of science on it. There is, right? Man, I've been so wrong on so many things. And once I read it, I can understand, even though I'm not that educated, I can, I understand what I'm reading. Mm-hmm. What it does is it gives you, not only it changed my mind or taught me, right? But it gave me a direction to go, okay, that's why this happens. That's why the colors came out that way. That's why that dog behaves that way. And this is where it comes from. So that I really appreciate science, even though I'm not a scientist. I can understand what the hell I'm reading. But a lot of dog guys, a lot of it's not based on fact. It's not even based on repetitions that they see over and over again. Something might happen one or two times and they go, well, that's because of this, or this is why it happened. Not necessarily. That's not why.
Mm-hmm. I've always kind of, I seem to learn more, or I don't know. I just seem to like the philosophy of old pit breeders. Like I remember reading all this stuff about man biting curs. You put them down right away because they're not game. But in my dogs, if I have a dog that's suspicious or naturally aggressive towards people, he's gone. I don't want to breed that shit. Because my worst nightmare is somebody gets my dog. I already have worries now because people are so goofy with stuff, but I would freak out if my dog hurt a kid or killed a kid or something like that.
Yeah, that's a little bit of what I'm talking about. The old axiom was a hard biting dog. They bite hard because they quit. There's no game hard biting dog. Well, that's bullshit. That's not true. Or they'd say a man biter can't be a game dog. That's bullshit too. I've had them and I've seen them. Or, whatever I've had people tell me, I've never seen a game brittle dog. Really? Well, then you ain't seen too many dogs then. Yep. I'll never own a brindle dog because none of them I ever seen were game. He might have seen 2 or 3 or 4 or even 10. But you know how many brindle dogs that have proven to be game and hard biters and athletic? It doesn't work that way. It's almost like old wives' tales, that even some people say, white dog, and maybe this is true or not. A white dog is a form of albinism, albino. I don't know if that's true.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I just know that it's just a weird gene that whole patches of color go. It seems to happen when we domesticate shit. Wild cows, they don't come white.
Yeah. Right.
When we start manipulating them, we get white. Have you ever
Yeah.
seen that thing about Russian fox breeders? They bred all these foxes for fur, and this lady for years she'd have them all in these cages, and she'd come up and stick her hand up to the cage, and if she had a fox that was friendly and not wanted to bite her, she'd breed that, and she kept breeding those friendly foxes to friendly foxes, and she domesticated them. And those domesticated foxes started getting droopy ears, big white patches on their, face or body or feet, and their tails would curl over their back.
Mm.
And she produced a fox that, anything that wasn't friendly became a fur coat.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the process of domestication. Maybe it does that. It changes them that way.
Yeah,
and maybe it could change the color of their hair because they're not in the wild anymore, where the color benefits them either, being stealthy or being prey, and you hide. So maybe that's not necessary anymore. It could be just the process of domestication. But because she's taking those ones that were wild and using the docile ones, maybe that's what changed them also. Now they lost those wild instincts, and part of that is their ears being, because the bat ears, some dogs have them, the bat ears, pointy ears, that helps with their perception of hearing. That helps with their alertness. That's why wolves and coyotes, they have bat ears like that. And even mine had that. They started getting those bat ears. People ask me, where did that come from? I don't know. I know that animals in the wild, their reception, because their ears are built that way, they can hear better because it brings the sound in. But I don't know why the hell my pit bulls started getting that. People go, oh, that's an inbreeding trait. My dogs weren't inbred that much. Not that way.
Same thing happens in American Bulldogs. I had a dog, Huggy, real famous black, one of the first really nice black dogs I produced. This guy that had my dogs bred it to another line of dogs and produced this little female, and she had prick ears like a French Bulldog, and she was red with a black muzzle. And so people took pictures of it. Some guy took it to a show. The people took pictures of it, and they're like, that Vito's putting French Bulldog in there. And they would attack me for that.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. These people, they're giving he threw something, he threw French Bulldog, or he threw this or that. Really? Why do you say that? Because of the color or looks or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily.
Right.
I think it happens because we get rose ears and we get flap ears, and then if you got certain rose ears that take on a different characteristics, they just want to go up in the air funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, gentlemen. Hey, I think I'm gonna have to wrap it up tonight. My wife, she giving me that side eye.
Okay.
Take your ass to bed.
All righty. Hey guys, it was a pleasure, Mr. Garcia. It was a pleasure.
Yes,
it was great talking to you too, Vito. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So we'll hook up again for sure. Hey, everybody, y'all tune in to the next time. Y'all know I'll be on a 1-week vacation, and I'll be back out there. I might try to squeeze one in. Just depends on my workload this week. So, but man, as usual, man, Vito and Schoolboy, we thank you, man. Shit, we learned a lot tonight, man. And hey, I think sometimes I'm the smartest man in the room. Sometimes, you know why, young folks? I think I'm the smartest man in the room because sometimes I just sit back and shut the fuck up and listen. You know?
Hey, as old as I am,
sometimes you gotta be quiet.
I do the same thing.
That's right.
I do the same thing. I just be quiet. Sometimes it's people older than me, or sometimes it's others having a conversation. I just, I talk so damn much. I love it when I'm glad Vito was here, so I didn't have to talk all the time. I love hearing other people.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, sometimes I'm the same way when I be having them co-hosts. I don't have to work as hard. I'll be like, shit, I can go handle the chat, blah, blah, just do my thing. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, guys, anything else y'all want to say before we wrap it up?
Thanks again. It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. As always.
Same here. Thanks for having me on. Salute to Vito. Thanks for being on here, brother. I really enjoyed it.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you. Me too.
All right, guys. We see y'all.
All right. Take it easy.